radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well, well, well. Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. 195 days into the new year, only 170 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. A total undisclosed location, but it is beautiful. It certainly is. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? Cassandra. That's awesome. That's awesome. Fred Curry. All right. Wow, what a week here on the show. Very excited. Last night was a barn burner. I gotta say, you know, with Lou and Danny last night, I mean, Lou revealed some things, and it was pretty cool about this 23-minute video, this UFO UAP video. So we had that. But I got, you know, Danny was amazing. Danny Sheehan last night just had me. I was right there. I was riveted. And then he let go of a little bit of a bomb last night when he said that the classified version section of the UAPTF report is over 400 pages. And I did, you know, that didn't get past me. And I said, "Are you sure?" I thought it was 78. And he said, "No, it's 400. There's 144. Okay. So anyway, you know, separate investigations. And that was interesting. And I got a text, right before the show tonight. Lets me know that everybody was listening. And from John Greenwald. John's like, "What's going on, man? Is it 400? Is it 74? Is it 78? I'm like, "Man, I don't know. So he's pressing to get this thing released. And he let me know that he is not letting his foot off the gas. So yeah, that was pretty interesting last night. And carrying forward after last night's show, tonight we have Grant Cameron here, live from Canada, one of the great researchers in all of ufology. He's been Researcher of the Year, Ufologist of the Year, international, nationally. You know, his work is second to none. So tonight, Grant Cameron is here, and we're going to continue the deep dive into all of these subjects. There is so much right now that is happening. And then tomorrow night, we have Debbie Cobble here, who is the subject of Bud Hopkins' book, Intruders. And she joins us tomorrow night for the first time. And I mentioned this last night. I got to hang out with Debbie last week for the film shoot. And she's absolutely amazing. So that's going down tomorrow night. You're not going to want to miss that. And then Thursday night, live from Australia, we have Ross Coulthard here. Whew, man, what a week on Fade to Black. And then we're going to close out the week on Saturday, July 17th. And that is the date. Our Forbidden Disclosure online conference live with Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, Lou Elizondo, Nick Pope, Billy Carson, and myself. This is an 11-hour all-day live event. Surely it will be the event of the year. Tickets and info are available right now. Go over to jimmychurchradio.com. We've got a banner right there you can click on. It's all through social media. You can go to Nick or Lou or Linda or Richard or Billy on their Twitter feeds. You can find links there. You can also find links, of course, in my Twitter feed and social media and Facebook. You got to get your tickets now. That's it. We've got today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days, and then the big event kicks off. It's going to be amazing. All right. Christina Gomez just tweeted out she's live right now. Christina, if you want some action, she's live right now. Don't do this during Fade to Black. I'm just giving you good advice. I mean, I would do it an hour before, do it after, because I would like to come and hang out too as well and invite everybody over there. But there you go. Anyway, just popped up right there. Christina, she's amazing. All right. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Follow me right there at JChurchRadio. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. Hello to everybody on YouTube, Facebook, KGRA. That's right. TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker, Fade to Black Sandbox, our website. Hello to everybody out there. This is going to be a great show. Stand by. Grant Cameron will be with us at the bottom of the hour. Okay, let's get to this breaking news. This is crazy. You ready? A library book that was 300 years overdue. And I know what you're thinking. How's that possible? How's that possible? You used to be able to check out books 300 years ago, and what? And if you were late, how did those late charges and what's going on? What this is, check this out. The book has been returned. That's right. After 300 years with a note. The book, a 1704 edition of The Faith and Practice of a Church of England Man, has found its way back to Sheffield Cathedral in England around 300 years after it was checked out of the cathedral's library and 200 years after the library itself was dismantled. The book, which arrived in the mail this week, was accompanied by a note from a woman in Wales who said that her recently deceased godmother had willed that it would be returned to the cathedral. The inner pages bear the inscription, quote, "This book belongs to ye Lending Library in Sheffield Church, 1709. And it's a cool-looking book, too. Incredible story. All right, this broke today. I think it's a pretty incredible story. Cornell West, the eccentric professor, you know, with the hair, right? With the hair. Public intellectual and progressive activist, resigned from Harvard after a 10-year dispute and accused the university of spiritual rot in a letter posted on his Twitter earlier today. Now, his resignation comes after he said Harvard denied him an opportunity to receive tenure, the indefinite academic appointment that makes it pretty difficult to remove professors. Harvard University and Harvard Divinity School both declined comment. Cornell graduated from Harvard and earned a PhD in philosophy from Princeton University. He's also taught at Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Union Theological Seminary. I think he is currently teaching at Union. Earlier today, check this out. They say it can't be done, but it can. Earlier today, British detectives seized a record nearly $250 million in Bitcoin linked to money laundering. The cryptocurrency was discovered Saturday after the Economic Crime Command for the Metropolitan Police, which oversees Greater London, received intelligence relating to the criminal transfer. Now, last month, the police confiscated $158 million worth of cryptocurrency and arrested a 39-year-old woman in connection to the case, who tipped off police to the latest seizure. Rat. I'm just saying. All right. This story has been breaking over the last few days. It's pretty incredible. And Cuba's communist government has sent large numbers of police along with its infamous special agents called the Black Berets. Sent them to the streets in the capital, Havana, following a weekend of massive unrest. Now, Noticias Telemundo confirmed videos broadcast on social media networks that showed the Black Berets using violence to detain peaceful protesters. Sending the elite group of Revolutionary Armed Forces, popularly known as the Black Berets, to the streets is seen as a sign of how big the protests are and the government's determination to suppress them with force. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel appeared on national television to give authority for the Cuban army to suppress the biggest protests in decades. He branded the peaceful protests as provocations. There you go. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is 79. Richard Dolan and I were talking about Harrison Ford last week a lot. And you got to go back to Apocalypse Now, Harrison Ford, right? And then American Graffiti. George Lucas directed that film before Star Wars. And then I think Harrison was like installing bathrooms, right, in California. Took him away from his construction job and made him a star in Star Wars. Patrick Stewart today. I can't believe this. Patrick Stewart is 81. Cheech Marin is 75. Mark the Animal Mendoza of Twisted Sister, today bass player, is 65. Director and journalist Cameron Crowe is 64. Of course, he wrote Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Almost Famous. And drummer Bobby Rock is 58. I think Bobby's currently playing with Lito Ford. And guitarist Damon Johnson is 57, played in the Delta Rebels and Brother Kane and Thin Lizzy. I was Damon Johnson's guitar tech. That's right. I toured with Damon Johnson back in the day. And I last saw him in Sherman Oaks many years ago. But wow, happy birthday, Damon. And happy birthday to the bloke from Oz. Our dead guy's birthday today is Danny Locken. 1943 to 1977, died at the age of 34. Danny was an actor, he was a dancer, and he also appeared on stage and television and film. He was best known for his role as Barnaby Tucker in the 1969 film Hello, Dolly. In August 1977, Danny was stabbed over 100 times by a man he met in a Garden Grove, California bar. In September 1978, his killer was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to only 4 years in prison. Incredible story. Happy birthday, Danny. On this day in history, OTD, 1985. I remember this like it was yesterday. Watched this in my bedroom in Pasadena, California. Live Aid. The Live Aid concert raises $127 million for famine relief in Africa. The 16-hour super concert was globally linked by satellite to more than 1 billion viewers in 110 nations. It was just an incredible day. Fader fact. Okay, here you go. Kit Kats, the candy bar. Kit Kats in Japan are associated with the phrase Kito Katsu, translated as "you will surely win," and thus a good luck charm for students who eat them the night before important exams. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight on the show, very special guest. Excited about this. Grant Cameron is here. He's the best. Grant Cameron, what a great week we have right here on Fade to Black. Tonight it's Grant Cameron. Tomorrow night, Debbie Cobble. Thursday night, live from Australia, Ross Coulthart. So there you go. Great week on the show. Stand by. Grant will be with us here in a few minutes. Let me hit this River Moon coffee. That set by Queen at Wembley. Man, just incredible. Look at Freddie. Who posted this? Is that Triscale or is that a retweet? Or is everybody posting the same gif of Freddie? Oh, man, there's Teach Marin. That's a great scene right there. I'm blind. Yeah, that's great. You guys are the best, man. Fader knots rock. I mean it. All right, River Moon. RiverMoonWellness.com. The links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Best coffee in the world. There's no question about it. Thank you to Juanita and Jeff. What a great company. And all of our other Black Moon products. Get it? River Moon, Fade to Black, Black Moon. All of our products are right there. Go and check them out. Visit the Amazon store, too, as well. All right? All right. Well, oh, man, I got something to say. Once upon a time, I posted this, quote, "Where is the definitive UFO photograph? Where is the up-close showing the rivets UFO image? We have billions of cameras all over this planet, and we still don't have the image. With the amount of reported sightings that happen every single day, ET must be lined up, bumper to bumper, like the 405 freeway in Los Angeles during rush hour. So, where is the perfect UFO picture?" Now, I could have posted this last week, last month, but I didn't. I posted this in a UFO forum back in 1994. That's right. 27 years ago. Need to think about that for a second. This was written when Art Bell was only 1 year into Coast to Coast AM. Think about that. Bob Lazar was still fresh. Bill Cooper was on the rise. And the alien autopsy hadn't happened. But that's not what's so important here. What is important is that, well, where is that definitive UFO image? Right? The video. Have we seen it yet? Well, no. We have not. There have been rumors over the last 50 years or so about different images, film, video, that the U.S. government has in their possession. I've heard them all. Heard the stories. heard the stories from those that have seen them. I've heard the stories from those who have shot the footage, only to have everything confiscated by G-men and men in black, whatever. Heard these stories all the way up to the present day. Now, there is the purported triangle over the ocean pic that has been talked about over the last year. Absolutely. Had Bob McGuire on the show. He says he's seen it. Tim McMillan says he's seen it. It's elusive. It's an enigma. And now we have Lou Elizondo. That's right. He was on the show last night, and he's talking about this 23-minute UFO video. And I don't doubt that they both exist. They probably do. But there has to be much, much more. And hopefully, one day we'll see them. But where is the one? We're talking about military stuff that is in possession of the United States government. Where is the one? The one taken by a civilian, the perfect image. Where is it? I don't get it. To this very day, I cannot believe that we didn't get a snapshot or a video of the beer can up at Mount Adams. I admit it. It was right there. I cannot believe it to this day. Right in front of us. 15 seconds, 30 people. It was perfect. It was sharp. It was visible. It was defined. It was huge. It was crazy. It was daytime. The real deal. And the one shot that eluded us. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm asking for the picture. I'm wondering where it's at. That event happens. We don't get a pic. And it's burned. It's burned into my eyeballs. I remember every second of that event. And I'm so happy that I chose mentally at that moment to just take it all in. I did. I just took it all in. I put out everything, all the commotion going around me, and I just looked at it from top to bottom. And it's still here. But didn't get a picture. That would have been the game changer. Here we are in 2021. All the tech in the world right at our fingertips. And we got nothing. All of those Corbell leaks, it's total crap. Videos that were shot literally in the middle of a U.S. Navy exercise with the highest of high tech known on planet Earth, and they show nothing. The one image that caught my attention, Knapp's blimp, nobody cared about. I'm not sure why. It's a great image that needs explanation, but it didn't move the meter at all. I tried to talk about it. I've tried to talk about it with many researchers, but I guess they just didn't see what I saw. So, Knapp's blimp is kind of lost to history in the ether. It's gone. I don't get it. So here I am, 26 years later, still complaining about the same thing. And I'll probably be doing it 10 years from now, too. And I'm okay with it. You see, I've been watching the drama from the side of the stage for a few years now. The fighting, the soap opera. Those who think that they've got it all figured out, they still don't get it. They thought that after reading about Tom DeLonge and TTSA that the UFO thing would be revealed in a couple of weeks. or a month or two. And it would all be something fun with instant gratification. Well, that didn't happen. What did happen was something that we, in the world of ufology, have been waiting patiently for decades. Many decades. Which is, for the first time, is that the subject is actually being taken seriously. Right? Without that picture, without that film, without that video footage, we will see hopefully, the now famous 23-minute UFO video. You know, I certainly hope that we do. I really do. But I've waited this long, and I can hang out for a while longer. Right now, at this point, it's no big deal. For everyone else who jumped on the bandwagon back in December 2017, I would suggest some reading, some study, and research. And you should start with Above Top Secret by Timothy Good. Still one of the top, bestest books ever written on the subject. It's thick, it's comprehensive, it's complete, and it's required. It was also written 35 years ago in 1987, before most of you UFO newbies were born. I bought it new. Think about that before you want to start some drama with me on social media. That's right. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, very special guest Grant Cameron is here. Tomorrow night, you're not going to want to miss this. Debbie Cauble joins us for the first time. And then Thursday night, it's Ross Coulthard, live all the way from Australia. Yeah, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back after this short break with our guest, Grant Cameron. Stay right there.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, the one and only Grant Cameron joins us. Tomorrow night, Debbie Cobble is here. She was the subject of Bud Hopkins' book, Intruders. That's tomorrow night. Thursday night, it's Ross Coulthart, live from Australia. But tonight, it's all about Grant. That's right. We're gonna do what Grant and I always do. We're going to talk about all of the latest news in our UFO community, including, and I haven't heard from Grant yet about this, the UAP Task Force report, and his take on the recent leaked videos that have circulated throughout mainstream media, all that and much more. Grant has been a researcher since 1975, Charlie Red Star, and was recognized as both the Leeds Conference International Researcher of the Year and the UFO Congress Researcher of the Year. He is a world-renowned expert on UFOs, conspiracies, government cover-ups, and has spent decades watching and chronicling developments around the extraterrestrial contact subject. He is the author of Charlie Red Star. His website is right there over at jimmychurchradio.com. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Grant Cameron. Grant, how you doing, man?
Jimmy Church, thanks for having me, and thanks for your interest always in what I'm doing.
Yeah, you know, Grant, what's strange with everything that has been going down lately, you and I haven't had a chance to talk, which is kind of strange. It's been a pretty fun ride over the last few months since you were last on with us, and I've got to get an update in the world of Grant Cameron, and also I do want to mention we finally, I think Grant and I are going to be hanging out at a couple of conferences that are coming up. Hopefully, Canada will let Grant come and visit. And that's the Conscious Life Expo coming up in September. And then right after that, in Laughlin, Nevada, Star Works with Paula Harris. And I'll see you there too as well. So we're going to do back-to-back conferences together. I'm looking forward to it.
Beautiful. Yeah, we got the COVID thing that you need a test to go across. The Americans need a test to go in. Then you have to have a test 3 days before you come back, which means you fly there and you have to immediately go for another test because you're usually flying back within 3 days. And then when you get back here, then you need another test once you get here. So it's kind of complex. It may change by the end of the month because we're I think we're about to have more people vaccinated than the United States in terms of percentage. So it may change. That's why I said hold off for a couple of weeks, and we'll see what goes down. But it'll be exciting to get together. I think with you, same thing. That there really has been no conferences, and for a lot of people in the UFO community, that is what it's all about. It's because a lot of people, what you'll find is, especially experiencers, their family really couldn't care less what they do. They're ostracized. They'll always come to me and say, "Oh, my husband and wife, my kids won't talk to me," or whatever. And I say, "Get used to it. That's exactly the way it's supposed to be." And so a lot of people who go to experiencers, that's their family. Especially when you see, I don't know how many times you've been to the big Congress is the one that started, where they had the experiencers in the back room, and they were always complaining, and they said, "Oh, this is terrible. They don't care about us. We're in the back room," and they would have it at 8:30 in the morning,
right?
Because the first lecture would be at 9:30, and nobody wanted to see these people coming in, so they'd have it before anything is started, so they could get back out. And they said they don't care about us, and that's when I said to them, you got to realize that you're in the Super Bowl of all stories, man. You're what it's about. You're the people that are experiencing and talking to the intelligence stuff. And they all sort of sat up straight in their chairs and they went, yeah. Just sort of realized, they were complaining. But what you see there is the first couple of years they had 20 or 30 people, and then I remember the last time I was there, they were in the back room, and then I went and I said, I'm going in. They said it's full. And I said, well, can I just stand in the back? And they said, well, there's 2 rooms full. And there was actually like 150 people the last time, and that was a number of years ago. And these people, and they're crying. It's the first time they've ever told their story. And, they come there and finally they can tell their story. Nobody's going to laugh at them. And you see that very powerful family atmosphere of people who haven't seen each other. And there's all this hugging and stuff that this is sort of like our family, where we go in there and people think we're exchanging photographs of UFOs and stuff like that. And usually it sort of comes down to these philosophical discussions. How does the world work? Is there a God? I mean, what's really going on here? I think it's very exciting to be at these conferences. People don't realize once you go there, it can be pretty addicting in terms of knowing people from all around the world. And people would even make complaint here. They'd say, "You don't have any friends." And I'd say, "I don't have any friends. I may not have any friends around here, but let me tell you, I can go to any state in the United States, almost any country in the world, and I can know a number of people who will help me out if I get in trouble." And that's what we have. We have this worldwide community that we know people all over the place, and we have this communion in terms of, that's what Whitley Strieber was told when he wanted to call it Body Pain. He wanted to call the book Body Pain, and then his wife was channeling in the middle of the night. And she said, "No, it won't be called Body Pain. It should be called communion, because that's what it is." And that's what it is. It's like this communion that we have, that we meet with each other, and we're on the same wavelength, and we figure we're doing something valuable. And we're, to me, it's always, we're in the Super Bowl of all stories. If you understand what's actually going on, we are playing in the Super Bowl of all stories. We're in the stadium. We're playing the game. People should realize that. And then when you go to these conferences, you realize these are the people that are in the game with you. And maybe if reincarnation is a fact, we all came into the world to change the world, and we're all working together to raise consciousness or do whatever we're doing.
It's really funny that you bring up the title of communion. Whitley told me the story last week, and I hadn't really heard it directly from him. But Communion would not have been the same book if it was another title.
Yeah.
And I'm being very serious about that. Very, very serious.
And that's the thing is, it comes to attitude. Like Anne had a different attitude than Whitley, because Whitley had that very traumatic start, which I think with a lot of experiences, that's what you see. The very first experience they have is very, very traumatic. They're in fear. And then once they get regressed, once they get going, it's almost like they become the Messiah. You can't shut them up. I mean, they're running around the world, and they figure they got this message for the world. But that is the whole deal. Or the other thing that she brought up was very important was the communion. And the other one was this aspect where they got 200,000 letters after that book went out. And I've talked to a lot of people, you probably have as well. When you mentioned the book Communion, they say, I remember the one woman said to me, I was walking in a mall and it was in the front window on a stand. And when I saw the photograph on the front cover, I just about dropped my kid. And then you see this, if you go to Communion to the Amazon, you'll see all these people making comments, the same sort of comments. When I saw that photograph, I knew that I was involved in this. It triggered something. It was almost like they put it on the cover. I know that the title was given to them, and I even think that the idea of putting that alien on the front cover was a triggering event where all sorts of people were triggered. And so they got these 200,000 letters that came from people all around the world. And Anne hired this secretary to put all these things together. And that's when she came out and made this new revelation where she said, Whitley, whatever we're dealing with, it has something to do with death. And that's when you see this whole deal. How many people see dead people on board ships, and the aliens seem to have some sort of interaction with that world, almost like they're coming from the same world of dead people. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if you've ever read Ron Johnson. He's a big experiencer out of Utah. He's documented 600 pages of his encounters since the 1960s. And he talks about the fact that Elby, who is the being that he deals with, actually took him in the spirit world 3 times. And the first time it was sort of a lower level, dark, nothing really happening in there. Second time he was with his mother, but he couldn't see his mother. His mother had died. And the third one, he tells the story where Elby takes him into the spirit world, and he's with his mother and can actually see his mother. And he says, she's taking me around, taking me through a tour of the spirit world. And Elby has taken him in there. Elby's there, but Elby's not interfering or whatever. And so she takes him, and he says, there's this little tiny, like he's a Mormon guy. So he says, there's this little thing that looks like a temple out of Nephi, Utah. And he says, my mother takes me to this temple building. She said, Ron, when you die, you're going to have a room in this building. And he said, I walked inside the building, and it was like 10 or 100 times bigger on the inside as it was outside. And I said, hey, that's exactly what Chris Bledsoe said. Yep. That's exactly what Terry Lovelace said about the UFO. Yep. Is that it's the Terry Lovelace said it was like a regular size UFO, and when he went inside, it was the football size of a football stadium inside there. And so I'm thinking, wow, is the guy having a near-death experience, or is he having an abduction experience? Because it was like a sort of like an abduction experience. And then the other thing that he mentioned, which was kind of weird, was when he was in this building, she's showing him around this building, and then she says we sort of levitate, we sort of hover down to the other side of the building, and at the far end of the building, there's this table that has these crystals on the table, and these crystals are coming out of the table. Now, I had read Dr. Michael Newton, who did the research on life between life. He did the 7,000 regressions, where he's talking about people in between lives and how they do research for their next life. And they have these big books, and they open up the book, and there's this crystal inside the book. And they look at the crystal at a certain angle, and they can see their past lives, and they can plan their future lives, whatever. So when Ron says these crystals, I said, there's crystals coming out of the table? He said, yeah. And you look at it at a certain angle, and you look in there, and you can see your whole life. And his mother said, you haven't got a crystal yet. The crystal won't appear until you die, and then you can see all the events of your life when you look in this crystal. And he saw his dog's crystal, so he got the dog's crystal, and he looked at it. He said, I never knew how my dog disappeared. He said, but when I looked at the crystal, I could see that my neighbor had shot the dog. And then you go to Richard Doty. If you go, I always believe that the government is dropping this stuff inside UFO documentaries. So if you look at the documentary UFO Cover-Up Live, 1988. Everybody said there was this terrible cover-up. It was terrible documentary. It was all scripted, and they had this bizarre music or whatever. Richard Doty is playing the backlit Falcon. And in there, you see the documentary, he says, the most amazing thing I saw the entire time I was working is the aliens had this crystal. And they showed the crystal, and you could see things. They could show the crucifixion of Jesus. They could show everything from the past by taking this crystal, and you look at the crystal at a certain angle. And that's when you start to see all this stuff line up, and you're going, hey, this stuff's all connected. All these people are telling these stories, but they're all connected when you look at them. And so there's this aspect of what I say is all the paranormal phenomena, even like you probably interviewed Ray Hernandez a number of times, where he was taken out of his body when he was on the Miami freeway, brought up, and we're showing this thing about the contact modalities, which I wrote a book on. And that was the idea that it's all the same thing. It's paranormal phenomena, psychic phenomena, remote viewing, death, UFOs, quantum physics, and it's all the same thing. Quit parsing this stuff, and in the middle of the connection is consciousness. So that's where you see all these different things that interest me sort of more than the UFOs, is the idea that the UFO is an anomaly. And I've had as you probably know, I've had a number of noetic download experiences where they basically told me this thing about, you've got all the wrong blocks. You think you've got the right blocks. all your blocks are wrong. In fact, everything you believe, it's exactly the opposite of what you believe. You think you understand what's going on. You have no clue what's going on. And the worst part about it is you're so stupid you don't understand. You don't know what's going on, and you think you know what's going on. And so it's this whole idea that it's this very complex sort of world that is all may have a consciousness bottom to it, and that the anomaly says, so if you have a weird phenomena, it's basically just saying to you, one of your blocks is wrong. You used to believe the world was flat. You found out it wasn't flat. You used to believe the earth, the sun went around the earth. That block was wrong, and you've got some wrong blocks. Because if this stuff was, if you had all the right blocks, there would be no anomalies. So that's why UFOs and all paranormal phenomena are so important. They're telling us something is wrong with the way you're seeing the world. And once you figure out the anomaly, then you'll understand better how reality works, and you'll be able to move along.
Yeah, physics and the woo-woo are on a crash course, Grant. They're gonna hit head on, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is gonna have a rude awakening. And I
always said that.
I look forward to it.
They talked about the religious thing. I said the guys that are going to be fighting for the cyanide pills are the guys that paid $45,000 to go MIT and suddenly realized everything they believed is basically not the way they thought it was. And that's the key. I mean, one of the things they gave me sort of like noetically is 2 lines, very important lines, and they keep repeating these. One was Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein said you cannot solve a problem using the same information that you used to create the problem. And the head of American psychology, William James, who started the psychology in the United States, said, you think you're thinking, you're just actually rearranging your prejudices. And that's where we have to realize that skeptics are basically, I believe skepticism is just left brain interpreter. If you understand the right brain, left brain experiments they did, this idea that it has to fill in the hole. When something happens and someone sees that there's an actual part in the left brain that is there to fill the hole, it immediately makes up garbage. And it's always wrong, according to the research. And when it's confronted that it's wrong, and they did these split experiments with people that showed this. When they were shown that they were wrong, that they showed them exactly how it worked, how they were forced to pick up something with their left hand or whatever it was. The person would get very upset and then very angry, and that basically describes a skeptic. So that's the thing. I think the secular guys who believe that it's just a random world, those are the people I think are going to be in trouble. I think the UFO thing, I started in 75. I'm not sure exactly when you started, probably about the same time. But back then, we were sort of the oddballs. And basically what it's going to come down to, Jimmy, is we were right about everything. All the stuff that we believed is going to end up right. And the weird stuff that we still are now being laughed at, that's going to end up being right too. That it's all going to be, the people are reporting exactly what their experiences were. And that's why you have to listen to the experiencers, I think, opposed to watching lights in the sky. Because lights in the sky will tell you, yeah, there's something going on and it isn't us. But it's not until you talk to the experiencers who are having these very bizarre experiences and interactions that you start to understand what's going on.
It's actually very simple, Grant. The quantum physicists, the astrophysicists, the theoretical physicists want us to digest their research into the multiverse, into parallel worlds, into time travel, into entanglement, 11 dimensions, right? They want, if all of that is true, all of their algorithms, all of their math, then everything else comes into play. All of it. It's all connected. And
quantum physics
it's fascinating
is
to me.
The UFO world. There's no doubt. Quantum physics is to back us up. It was a crazy idea, but then you start to see the more it goes along, that we become validated more and more as it goes along with all the bizarre quantum physics things that shouldn't be happening. It's the same thing. It's the anomaly. You got to say why is the dual slit experiment? Why is the observer when the thing breaks down, when there's an observer, all this kind of stuff. And that's the whole thing with the universe is this idea of the observer effect, that it may not be the physical world we think it is, because if it's the physical world we think it is, they can't get here from there. It's impossible. And so it's either it's not happening or it is happening, and we've got it totally messed up as to how it works. But quantum physics is starting to support what we're saying, and that's what people may not realize is when you have UFO lectures that people are talking about quantum physics because they're using it to say, hey, we were right all along. So I think we're moving along, and yet even if we don't figure it out, we're still in a situation where we're moving along, and it's the journey, not so much the destination. Because people always, I get frustrated with the disclosure thing, especially the UFO disclosure thing. Because now we're on this thing about, is the government going to announce disclosure? And it's like, no. I mean, if you've had an experience, I had the experience in '75, where it was right in front of the car. So I've never, ever gone down the road of, I got to prove UFOs exist to people. I could care less. I know what's going on. And so you have this situation where they're saying we need to get the government to confirm that UFOs exist. And I'm going, no. Like, this is 47 years. I don't want to go back to grade 1 for the 47th time. No, let's get beyond the UFOs exist, and let's get to the next step as to why they're here, what's going on, what does it mean. And I think we're still sort of stalled in this position of trying to get somebody to confirm it so we can go to our friend or neighbor or parent or whatever and say, I told you I was right. And that's what I think people are waiting for, Big Brother to sort of validate it to them, when I don't think it's really going to change. In fact, I was given a message where they said, so what's going to happen if you get disclosure? Are y'all going back to church? And that's true. Like, what do you do if suddenly the government stands up and says, okay, it's real, there's intelligence here, whatever they say? I mean, what do you do? Next day you got to go to work. I don't think anything's going to change. The same as in 2017. Remember, we always thought back in the old day that the world was going to sort of blow up. The Stephen Greer used to say, the stock market will melt down, and people will figure, all the religions will collapse, and people will be jumping out of windows and stuff like that if they find out that the government's got a UFO program and this is for real. And what happened when they did it? Everybody went, yeah, I knew that already. God, get on to the next thing. Nobody even reacted when the New York Times did that story because people had been acclimatized. And I think we're now moving to the next stage of acclimatization, that there's actually, this is real and people want further answers. I don't think people are going to be really shocked. I think it's the secular guys who have stood their ground to every end to say this is swamp gas, this is whatever. They're still doing a job where they're still in a position where they can deny it. But those are the guys I think they're going to be in the worst position. Probably they'll find some way to walk their way out of it, but you can't really convince them. I always tell the story where I worked on Stanton Friedman's files, and I went there and I always make the point that we think that we need to show this because we need to prove to people that this is for real. And that's not the point, because Stanton Friedman spent 61 years doing UFOs. And if you take a look at what he did, he argued with Phil Klass, he argued with Menzel and Randy and all these guys, Carl Sagan and stuff like that. And who did he convince? He didn't convince anybody of anything. I mean, basically, he would say, we lectured at Oxford, and 78% of the people believe I won the debate. But in terms of did he change Phil Klass's mind? No. People have this set thing. That's this idea of the left brain interpreter, that once somebody sticks something in there, that's what they said. Once they put this garbage in there, and it's always wrong to fill in the hole when there's an anomaly. It's an anomaly and there's a hole in the wall, and the left brain wants things normal. It's like, no. What are you talking about? There's aliens and stuff. And it immediately says, it's this or it's that. And then that's when they said it does not change its mind. It will never change its mind. And that's why skeptics, you can see these skeptics go their whole life and you can never, ever, it's like I'm a good thinker on my feet, but basically what they're using is left brain, that I can come up with 40 alternate explanations to what you do. And if you answer this, I've got another explanation. That's left brain interpreter. It's a part of the left brain that has actually been studied. And that's where skepticism comes from.
Yeah. And the other part of that is, once when somebody is set, from birth, and it doesn't matter if it's religion or whatever it is, they have a set belief system. The more evidence that you push at them, the more that it strengthens their resolve. Yeah. You're not going to get somebody to change their mind.
People actually go farther in their corners.
Yeah.
The only thing that's where the only thing that really changes it is experience. So people will say, I don't believe that. And I'll say, okay, repeat that really slowly. And then they'll go, I don't believe that. I said, emphasis on the word believe. You believe. The only way you can really know is to have the experience. Who cares what you believe? Put on a suit and go to church. I could care less what you believe. And that's what people are doing. They think that my belief trumps your evidence. or that they'll say, "Oh, experiencers."
That's right.
Experiencers just they think. I know you think. No, it's the opposite. The experiencer knows. It's the critic on the outside who hasn't had the experience who's actually the believer. And they've got it completely backwards. Only the experiencer, the person, and you'll see that's what happens with UFO experiences when people have them or have the psychedelic experience or the out-of-body experience or whatever. They go, "Oh my goodness, I realized my ego was crushed. And I realized everything was alive, conscious, and one." You're not going to get that unless you got an experience. And then you see people absolutely flip from one side to the other. But convincing them with logic, I don't think it worked. I mean, Stanton Friedman proved it, 61 years. And that's what I noticed when I was there. I'm going like, man, he didn't convince anybody of anything. He was basically sort of having these debates, but the experience, the people who've had the experience are the ones that are shifted. And you'll see this, with psychedelics, where 73% come out with high dose psilocybin and they're no longer atheists. And you get these kind of things where people are just flipped from one side to the other, where they suddenly realize like, oh my goodness, I mean, I had no clue what's going on. And that's what the anomalies show us, is you really don't know what's going on. Or when I sum up UFOs, I say it's going to be a lot less physical than people think it is. It's going to be a lot more spiritual than people think it is. And it's going to be at least 1,000 times more complex than people think it is. People think they've got this thing understood. And the more, you probably know, the more you look at the UFO thing, the weirder it gets, the more complex it gets, and the more magnificent it appears as to what this whole thing is about. And we haven't got a clue as to what's going on.
Have you flip-flopped since 1975?
Oh, I always tell the story. I never had any intention. I had no interest in UFOs. In fact, I was raised very religious, and I sort of believe that, religions stuff may have happened in the Bible, but there are no miracles. And I always describe it. I said I bought the lottery ticket knowing there's a chance I could win, that I would see something when I went out there, but I'm not going to see anything. Everybody is going to see something. I'm not going to see anything. I could not believe it, because we were out there and we were looking around. What are they looking at? What are they looking at? And when it came, nobody said, "Is that what they're looking at? I wonder if that's what they're looking at." Everybody went, "There it is." It was just, and I went, "Oh my God." I couldn't believe it. It was like I'd won the lottery. I'd seen a miracle. It was like, wow. It was just so dramatic. I just flipped on, and none of the stuff that I did. When I had the consciousness download, when I was watching Colin Andrews give that lecture, I had no interest in being in that lecture. I had no interest in crop circles. And again, it was like when this thing came into my head and said very clearly, put these pieces together and said, this is the base of this thing. The answer to this whole thing is consciousness. I couldn't think for 2 days. I was just like, wow. And almost every move I've made, I've been dragged into it. I've been flipped. I really didn't decide to do any of the stuff I did.
Let's take our break right here, Grant. We've got a lot to discuss tonight. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron. We're going to go through everything. Now, Grant, when we come back after the break, I want to jump straight into the UAP Task Force report. I want your take on all of that, and we'll get to everything else. All of this tonight on Fade to Black with Grant Cameron. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. KGRADB.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron is here. Tomorrow night, Debbie Cobble. Thursday night, Ross Coulthart. What a great week on the show. Tonight, it's all about Grant. And Grant, I mentioned right before the break, much anticipated, lots of emotion, everything in the big build-up to the UAP Task Force report released on June 25th. You've had a little bit of time now, a couple of weeks, to digest it and take it all in. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely no surprises. I've written 5 books on this subject of the disclosure, of the leaking of material from the government. And it's like a repeat of so many times before they've done it. And there's a funny incident. I was promoting a book on Coast to Coast. This is in 2016. It was UFOs, Area 51, and Government Informants. And I was on the first 2 hours, and Chris Mellon was on the third hour. And I remember I was talking about, the government's leaking this stuff, and they're indirectly, there's people inside the government who are pushing this stuff out or whatever. And then Mellon came on the third hour, and George says to him, so what do you think about what Grant says? He goes, nah. I would have known. If the government had a UFO program, I would have known. And a year later, Lou Elizondo resigns October the 4th in the morning. In the afternoon, there's Chris Mellon and Hal Puthoff and all these guys in a meeting in Pentagon City, and they're basically spelling out the story to the New York Times for 3 hours, showing them videos and this whole thing. So to me, it's this orchestrated thing. This has been going on. This is not the first rodeo. It's been going on time over time after time, and they get these people. It was before Lou, it was Tom DeLonge, and he went down. Before him, it was Stephen Greer. People don't realize that Stephen Greer, when he first came out, he was walking on water. Everybody thought he was the Messiah. And before him was Bill Moore, and before him was Bob Emenegger and the Disney in the 1950s. And this is just over and over and over again. So I really wasn't that surprised. And I sort of saw it the way Danny Sheehan was describing it before it came. And I think he's probably changed his mind a bit, but he called it a nothing burger. And I basically said, they are not going to put out the key stuff. This is the last thing that the intelligence wants to do, because I actually did interviews 3 years ago. And we were doing interviews. I was doing interviews with Melinda Leslie, who was talking to Jim Semivan. She's the only one that talks to Jim Semivan. And these interviews are on my YouTube channel, where Jim Semivan says to her, we're going after Congress, and we're going to get them to move this issue forward and get hearings and get funding and stuff like that. And she said to him, she said, hey, Jim, so what could I do to you that would really get you upset that you would never talk to me again? And he said, mess with the money. So I knew 3 years ago, we've had these interviews over and over again, that this is what they were doing. They were moving in there, and they're going to, they use the fear thing. They use, they got to sell a thing inside Congress. They're going to get the money. And then, so I was not surprised when they suddenly, it was announced, well, they've got this, and they're going to get the Pentagon to do this study, and it moved. Then it's Elizondo and everybody else leaves TTSA. And I go, well, that makes sense. And he said, we're going into second gear. And it's like it's been planned. I've always believed that there are people inside the government, like Hal Puthoff, like people who are trying to push it out, and there are people who are trying to stop it. And the people on the inside that want it out have learned a little bit better. So this version of the disclosure thing is a little more, I say it's like disclosure on steroids. So we had the version of Bill Moore, and we had all these other situations. But this is, I always point out, one of the most important interviews on disclosure that was ever done was done by you in 2016 with Tom DeLonge. People need to listen to that interview, how that worked. This all started with Tom DeLonge. Tom DeLonge tells a story that he was contacted to give this speech at Lockheed Skunk Works. Then he's taken into the skiff. People think Tom DeLonge had this phone book, and he phoned up all these people. He didn't do any such thing. He was brought in, the same as Bill Moore. He said to them, he made this pitch. Oh, we need this disclosure. I can get this thing out. And the one guy, if you remember, I think it was on your interview, where the one guy says to him, hey, this may actually work. And then 2 weeks later, he gets the phone call. Hey, go to Washington. We need you to meet in Washington. He goes, and these two guys in behind this desk sitting in this room, and in Pentagon City, the same place where the Lou Elizondo meeting, the same area of town. And the guy says, this does not happen on the Hill. This does not happen at the White House. This happens when people behind a table like this decide to take the football and move it down the field. And then they send it to NASA. NASA sends them to Ames. Ames sends them to Space Command, and he meets with McKay. And then he goes to Wright-Patterson, and he meets with McCaslin. And then he gets Robert Weiss. They give him Robert Weiss, and they give him all these people. So it's the same sort of story. And it's people, I believe, on the inside who are trying to push it out, who are trying to get funding for UFO research or whatever it is. I'm always a little bit upset about the threat thing. I'll give you an example in a second, but I'm always worried about, are we going to start another war? Is this what this is about? If you get the military, Eisenhower stood up, said, beware the military industrial congressional complex. That was the original speech. They took congressional out of the speech. And that was this idea that once you get Congress involved and everybody's getting jobs and everybody's got people in there, like the F-35 jet fighter made in 46 different states, because nobody's going to vote against it if you've got people hired in your district that are working on it. If the cost overruns, nobody's going to say anything.
Right.
And that's what I always saw. It was this movement. But what I say, it's working good. I think they're moving it along. And I'm most happy that Danny Sheehan is involved. I trust Danny Sheehan implicitly, and I think that if Danny Sheehan's on our team, we could actually win. For the first time, I think we can actually win. But one of the things that upset me is that what have we actually learned after this report that we didn't know before? We have literally learned nothing. All we've learned now is that Congress has been briefed. And then you say, well, what would they brief them on? Can't tell you. No, secret. So we got another level of secrecy. We got the congressional guys. And even we were talking to Elizondo last night, and I had to laugh when he said, hey, the report's 400 pages? I thought it was 74 pages. And it's like, well, no, it's like, it was Danny Sheehan that said
right.
It was 400 pages. And he said, well, it's 74. I mean, if we can't even figure out how many pages there are, I mean, what are we really being told? I mean, what's classified about how many pages are in the classified report? Classified is supposed to be sources and methods. I mean, what are they using, a special way to count paper or something? I mean, this is crazy. We're not learning anything. We're just going along with this thing where we're being told, yeah, there's something happening and they're moving this thing along. But in terms of what we got, we really didn't get anything that we didn't already know. And I would say that what's happened is that because Semivan and people like that pushed Mellon and Semivan particularly pushed Congress into this position where they asked for the report. The Pentagon didn't want to do this report. This is the last report in the world they wanted to do. I mean, they had this thing all covered up, and they were forced to do the report. So they gave the least amount of material that they could in terms of what they had. Now, I think from what I heard from James Fox, he had talked to Podesta, and Podesta's talking to Biden. So I think that's what you need the green light from the president to put pressure on the Pentagon to play ball. Because if he's putting it on, then they have to do something. And I think you've got an indication that something has happened because you suddenly have the director of NASA who suddenly stands up and says, oh, we should investigate UFOs. I remember in the Carter administration, the idea with the president is the president can't touch the subject, but he can make moves. And Jimmy Carter had sent his press secretary, he says science advisor, down to NASA to do another Blue Book study. And they said, no, you cut our budget by $5 billion. We haven't got the money for this. If you've got metal, we'll look at the metal. And they would refuse to do the study. So when you have NASA step forward and say, oh, we should investigate UFOs, number one, it indicates that there's a green light from, and I've actually filed an FOI to find out if this is true. If the science advisor office, because that's where Podesta said it should be in the OSTP, which is where the Rockefeller Initiative took place. And he's advised Biden to put it into that office. Right now, it's in the armed services, which means weapons. I think it should be in the science aspect. But the other thing that it shows is the fact that Tom DeLonge was right all along. That Tom DeLonge is much more important. The Hillary Clinton, Tom DeLonge, Podesta thing. Because if you go back to the WikiLeaks emails, you'll see a memo that was written that Tom DeLonge gives to John Podesta, and that is McCaslin, two-star general at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, who actually says when disclosure happens, this is what you should do. And one of the things he says, you should give it to NASA to run. You need somebody, it's in their job jar, otherwise nobody's going to do anything. And so I was not surprised when suddenly the director of NASA says, oh, we should be looking at UFOs. You see that this thing is moving along at a pretty good clip. But in terms of what are we actually going to learn? So when this report, I already knew that there was really nothing of significance going to come out of the report. I said the most important thing is not, again, does the government know? Is the government Big Brother going to tell us UFOs exist? That doesn't change anything. I had the post-game show where I had all the experiencers. I said, okay, the government's going to tell you nothing. But here, let's get all the experiencers on and let's put them on, and they'll tell you what the other side is saying. Because there's a disclosure not only by the government, the alien intelligence or whatever this is disclosing as well. They're opening themselves up. Why do UFOs have lights on them? They have lights so you can see them. They want you to see them. They're playing the disclosure game as well. And so I said, let's put the experiencers on right after. So that evening I had the experiencers and said, okay, this is what the other side is saying. But that's what you're not going to see. Even if there's congressional hearings, what shocked me is you're not going to see any experiencers go on. Like tomorrow you've got Debbie Cobble on. Mm-hmm. And the idea is, the New York Times said it. We're not talking aliens. Don't use the word alien. We're not using the word alien. We're just talking about threats and UFO sightings and stuff like that. And the experiencers are going to be ostracized. They're going to be left out of the process. They're not going to be brought in front of Congress. We're just looking at technology. We're looking at UFO sightings. We're looking at potential threats, national security, all this kind of stuff. And I say you've got to listen to the experiencers because they're the ones that are actually. So that's what I did. I actually had the experiencers tell what the other side is doing. And you have people like Debbie that you're going to have on tomorrow. That the idea is, and I was shocked when we had a panel, and actually a top prominent UFO researcher said the experiencers should step down. They should stop talking because they're going to destroy disclosure. This is a knife in disclosure. It's like these crazy people with their stories about aliens. We don't want this stuff. We want to keep it. And as soon as they say, well, ETs exist, well, then they can start talking. And I was just horrified that we're going to, it's like, if you're an experiencer, then it's like, you better shut up. We got a cross and we got some nails here. And if you keep talking, we're going to use it. And that's the part that annoys me, is that the experiencer is going to be cut out of this thing. Nobody wants to talk to aliens. Nobody wants to talk to the experiencers. What are the things doing here? It's all about technology. It's all about threat and this sort of stuff. And it's a very materialistic paradigm. And I feel very sorry for the experiencers who will actually tell you what's actually going on.
Now, what about the other part of the movement? Certainly the newer side of this, and I talked about this in the opening of the show, that came into this after December of 2017. Yeah. And they thought that this was going to be an instant gratification, that we were going to go straight to disclosure. They had TTSA, they had Tom DeLonge, they had all of the, but to them, this was an interest that was brand new. They don't know about the past. And suddenly, in a very short time, you go straight to this UAP task force and their report, and they were expecting this report to say that ET is real, we've made contact, and it wasn't in the report. Does that take the wind out of the sails for everybody that came in here? Are they going to hang out with us and keep the energy level up, or are they going to lose focus?
No, I think this thing keeps moving. They've got a plan. Lou Elizondo, if you listen to him carefully, he says this all the time. It's like, now he even said, we had a panel and someone said he had brought up third gear. This is all, I think, planned, that they know where to go next. They, you got to remember, Jim Semivan was part of this thing. So was Mellon. These guys have worked inside Congress. They know how to move this thing along. They know how to move people to vote in a certain position. So these people may be a little disappointed now. Welcome to ufology. We've been waiting for 50 years for this, or 75 years for this to happen. It moves very slowly. But if you start looking, I always said one of the things that we should do is listen to the very important people. So you listen to Elizondo, you listen to Mellon, you get the transcripts, you listen to Jim Semivan, you listen to Pandolfi, Kit Green, all these people. You got to listen very carefully. And if you listen to them carefully, you'll see a lot of the things that pop up that indicate, well, this may have happened. One of the examples I'll give you is Bob Bigelow. Whatever you think about Bob Bigelow, you should listen to what Bob Bigelow says, because Bob Bigelow in 2013, and this was just after he had the program with running this program, and he's running another program now, which I'll point out, which nobody wants to pick up. But anyway, George said, "Are you in favor of disclosure?" This is 2013, and Bob Bigelow said, "No, I'm not in favor of disclosure. I'm in favor of confirmation. You need to get confirmation first, then you can go down the road and start talking about disclosure and aliens and stuff." That's exactly what they've done. He said that, and it's almost like this is part of the plan, that they've seen the plan, that you move one step at a time, don't move too fast. You even see this with the people talking, like, don't bring this up, as if they're moving it step by step. And even the last conversation that Melinda Leslie had with Jim Semivan, he said, You're going to see this report. It's going to have this stuff in it, basically describe what was going to happen. And he said, and she asked him, of course, about the abduction and all this kind of stuff. And he said the third rail will come up, and they call it the third rail. So this will come, but it's going to come in time. So once we get sort of an announcement that this thing is for real, then people are going to go, okay, so what's going on? And where I disagree with a lot of people is I say that, like a lot of people are saying, oh, they're going to announce ET. I'm saying if you listen carefully to the very top people, whether it's what Obama said, what Trump said, what Elizondo has said, yes. I can talk about, I got the Johnson study, eyes only study for President Johnson. I've got the file as to what happened there. It's always the same thing. Yes, UFOs exist. This is what they're telling you. Everybody's telling you the same thing. Yes, UFOs exist, and we don't know what it is. I believe that to be true. Everybody's saying, no, this is obviously ET. And I say, okay, if it's obviously ET, let's go back to 1895. And we had all these ships. And some people say there was 10,000 sightings in the United States of these airships, wooden ships with propellers and sails on them and these big lights that they would need, these batteries that we didn't have at the time. And they were flying around the Western United States, and people would talk to them and say, so where are you from? And they say, we're from Mars. So are they from Mars? Are they ET? Were those guys flying around in 1895, 86 ETs? The same thing as you go from 1950. I looked at all the sightings before Nancy Tremaine, who was actually before Betty and Barney Hill, 2 months before. If you look before them, what you see is, oh, we're from Mars, we're from Venus, we're from the moon. Nobody believes that anymore. I remember the Canadians were in contact with an alien by the name of Alpha, and I remember the metallurgist who was involved in this said, let me make something very clear, Grant. Neither Wilbur Smith or I ever believed that Alpha was from Uranus. We never believed that. And it was the whole idea. So are they actually ETs? And you go back and you see this reflection of who we are. In the 1890s, there were human type beings. Then you look, and before Nancy Tremaine, if you look at all the humanoid sightings from 47 through to 61, you'll see probably 20% at least of the beings that were seen had helmets on, glass helmets. And with hoses, a lot of them had hoses coming out of the back of the helmet. Well, that's basically 1950 movies and cartoons, and I think they're reflecting what we are. I think they do not know if this is ET. And the example I've brought up, and nobody wants to go there, and this is the whole idea. If you've interviewed Jim Peniston, you can ask him about this. You know that Kit Green and Nolan were running around trying to get DNA and MRIs from the experiencers, trying to have this idea about the military guys. How do these have people make contact, people being injured, this sort of stuff? And they went to Peniston, and Peniston said, well, I'm not Burroughs, I'm not going to roll over like Burroughs. I want to know, Kit, what the heck's going on? What are you doing? And he says, well, it's kind of like propulsion. He said, well, come on, you think I'm stupid? It's not propulsion. What are you doing? Propulsion. He said, well, maybe I'm using the wrong word. We're trying to figure out how does the phenomena pop in and pop out as quickly. We're trying to figure out how does it move interdimensionally. So then Peniston says, are you working for the government? And he goes, well, yeah. And he said, well, how many? 8 guys. And he said, it's the Defense Department. Yeah. And Bigelow has the contract. So here you have this idea. And then you see the guy from the Politico, Brian,
Bender.
Bender. You see that he writes that there was a defense program that looked at the interdimensional aspect of the ET phenomena, that maybe they are from right here, but a different right here. Or if you see Lou Elizondo's interview that he did with Debrief, they say, okay, is it on world or off world? And he goes, hang on. That's not the only 2 options. And he starts down this rabbit hole about, quantum physics and all this kind of stuff. And I remember the experiencer, Yossi Ronan, who had been told this. He'd been given this by these beings. He wrote a book called One, the main message that they're trying to get across.
Right.
And he said, he contacts me, said, do you hear what Lou Elizondo said? I said, yeah, I heard it. We did a podcast. We played this thing, and we had the same thing. And it's this idea. Don't assume this thing is ET, because that's the question they're asking him. Is it ET? And he's saying, well, no. And you'll hear, if you listen very carefully to these guys, they say, no, we don't know what it is. Lou says, we don't know what it is. And it's not that we don't know they're UFOs. Yeah, we have bodies, we have crafts. But unless the alien has a Zeta Reticuli passport, how do you know it's from another planet? That's where I think the thing, so people are waiting for an ET disclosure. I don't think they're going to go there, because I think that they understand that this thing is popping in and it's popping out. and especially the stuff we got from Kit Green that leaked out. There's a woman that she was dealing with, Kay Randall May. This tape leaked out of Kit talking to her, and he said, "Who are we dealing with?" And she says, "Oh, there's this portal off the coast of California," and she starts talking about all this stuff, and that is really weird stuff. Gets into portals, it gets into all this kind of stuff, and that's why I say it's 1,000 times more complex than people think it is. I don't think the government can go there. That's where I think the stumbling block is. They really don't know what they're up against. They have crafts, yes, they can't fly them because they need a consciousness interface. They can't fly them. And the idea is that you can have all the hardware you want. It's like dropping a cell phone to Leonardo da Vinci. Unless you know how this thing works, it's not that simple. And I think they know this is for real. And that's what the result I got when I got the material from the eyes only study done for President Johnson. People always say, "Oh, the president doesn't know what's going on," and it's like, give your head a shake. The president can't get whatever he wants. And James McDonald. And you're talking to Ross on Thursday.
Right.
Ross talks about this. One of the witnesses from the school case in Australia, the grade 9 teacher, was confronted and threatened. But a year later, he says he was contacted by the White House, by a guy representing the White House, which was James McDonald, who was on the congressional hearing. He was this professor from the University of Arizona, and he was friends with President Johnson. And he was going after President Johnson. And Johnson said to the guy that wrote the report, his name is Frank Rand, he said, "Get that bee off my neck. Tell him you're working on this problem, and we need to get rid of this guy." And he did a study. They did a study that had all the top people: Lockheed Skunk Works, head of Lockheed Skunk Works, 3-star general from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, all the same positions that Tom DeLonge had. Exactly, almost like a carbon copy. And what they did was they had a 9-month study, 8 of the top people, CIA, head of the weird desk at CIA, all these guys. And what they came up with was exactly what you're hearing now from the government. Yes, this is for real, and we really don't know what it is for sure.
I've only got about 2 minutes before the break, Grant. I wanted to ask you this. Were you surprised about the lack of CIA participation in the UAP Task Force report?
Well, that's what I'm saying. This was forced to the Defense Department, so CIA is not part. Everybody's running for I'm sure everybody's running for the hills. Everybody's trying to cover up as fast as they can to stay out of the light of this thing, because this thing has sort of exploded in their face. This is the last thing they want to do, so they're not going to drag the CIA in. And what I would think that the CIA is going to do is they start dropping, Dolan gets some leak of stuff from the classified material. I think that's what the CIA role might be, is to throw mud in the water, to try to muddy it up. But this is basically just a request made to the intelligence. Half the Elizondo says half the people weren't even talked to. That's why you need the president to move in and put pressure to get this properly. The one weird thing that I found was that on the day of the release, I actually got my FOA released that I had filed as soon as it was announced that the ATIP program existed. I actually got the guy who asked Hillary Clinton the question. He was a reporter in New Hampshire. I said, "Come on, let's file FOAs. First come, first serve." And the day that the report was released, I got an FOA back, and so did somebody else. Almost like somebody's behind the scenes is putting pressure. So I have a lot of optimism that there's so many people are going to put, and they really can't cover it up anymore. And the bottom line is Danny Sheehan is not going to walk away without this thing solved. They have no idea who they're up against. Danny Sheehan is not going to let go. He knows where the bodies are buried. He knows how it works. They're not going to walk around him. He's even been able to get them all to work together instead of having 3 different reports. And now I've heard there's another report. So you're starting to see this catalog. There's been another complaint filed. I'm doing the interview with the guy on Saturday, and now we've got a new option. So if you've been offended by this thing, you can actually file a complaint and go and force these people to do these investigations. This is much more powerful than FOIAs. But Danny is on the inside now, and I think with Danny there, we could very well win this.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Grant Cameron. Now, Grant, you mentioned right before the break, you said Bob Bigelow has a new project. I'm going to ask Grant about that when we return. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. We'll be right back.
here. We listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron. Whoo, man. And tonight, right now on the show, this is why I have Virtual Shield VPN. They are listening. You need Virtual Shield VPN. You've got to get it now. You've got to get it today. You need all of your stuff private. You need to run secret. And you do all of that with Virtual Shield VPN. They do it. They have encrypted servers all around the world. Your search history, your location, everything is private. You need it today. And not only that, they have a strict no-log policy. So everything that you do, like listening to Grant tonight on this show, you don't want the man to know anything. Get Virtual Shield VPN. Go to the video description box below. The link is right there. Click on it. Virtual Shield for 50% off today. You can also type into your browser for the last time, too. virtualshieldvpn.com/fade to black. That's all you've got to do. It's really that simple. 50% off today. It's shows like this that you need to keep from the man. Let's get back to Grant. Grant, you said Bob Bigelow has got a new program. What's he got going on?
Okay, well, I mean, as I mentioned, this comes out of Peniston. I'll actually read you the piece out of Peniston's book that talks about this. So this is actually going back probably, sounds like it's about 2013, 2014. You knew that they were doing this experiment with, they had the military people with the injuries, where they were doing the MRIs, they were scanning people's brains, and they were doing the DNA stuff. So Nolan was doing the DNA stuff. So that's where Peniston confronts him. Like, why do you need my DNA? And why do you need to do a brain scan? I'm not going to go along. And he never did go along with it. He never did give him what he wanted. But he said, I'll read what Peniston says from his book, page 616. To conclude with what he had already told me, he's talking to Green, I asked, so the purpose of you being here is that you want to help me? Green stuttered and said, yes, adding that it would help his own research with this phenomena, especially where the others who have had similar experiences are concerned. Then I asked who are the others that were being researched, and also asked if he was working for any of the 3 subcontractors who routinely do USAP, Unacknowledged Special Access Program work. I then named the 3 major government contractors, largest being Science Applications International Corporation, along with Bigelow Aerospace being the last. Hesitantly, Green said that he had never heard of the first 2, but not the last one very convincingly. However, Green then went on to say that he was working with a group who are exploring cases that needed to be looked at, and I asked, are you doing subcontracting work for the government? Then Green said yes, adding that he was currently doing work for Bigelow Aerospace with a group of 8 scientists, 8 other scientists and medical professionals. Now, there was a tape that leaked out with Kit Green talking to this intuitive, which was kind of interesting, that they're using this intuitive that he said was 95% accurate on medical material. And on that one, he mentions Hal Puthoff. So we can assume that Hal Puthoff was one, Nolan, but we already knew they were doing this. We knew they were doing this study on military people, and that would indicate that it's government, because they're not using civilian people, because you can't get the civilian people's medical records. So they've got the medical records of these military people, and they're doing this study. And at that point, they had 50 when that study, when it was done in his book. And then later on, Kit Green talked about having over 100. Now, to do the DNA and to do brain scans, you need some money. Somebody's paying for this. And so the assumption that you get from this is that there's a government contract to look at injuries of military people who've been very close to UFOs, and they're looking at this DNA thing to see how do people who are experiencers, how are they able to make contact? Like with Chris Bledsoe, how is this guy able to make this contact? What's different in his brain from anybody else? But somebody's paying for this. This is a lot of money. And so Bigelow wouldn't be putting up the money. Bigelow would be running the contract, the same as the whole ASOP thing. And that's the other thing that we're missing on this whole program is where's the ASOP report? Because we're talking ATIP, but we know that ATIP was only a small portion of the whole ASOP program, which is $22 million, and that it was a Title X thing where they could only look at military people. So the whole basic thing started not with UFOs. It started with Skinwalker Ranch. That was the main program. And that was where you see the famous Slide 9 where they're saying, oh, there's a threat. Look at the Slide 9. This thing about going through metal and interfering with people's brains. That's all Skinwalker Ranch. So where's the Skinwalker Ranch report? More importantly, where's the report where they requested funding from Skinwalker Ranch? Because what they were doing at Skinwalker Ranch is they were trying to figure out how does the woman come in, put her groceries in a round, and then come back and the groceries are all back in the bag? How do they mutilate cattle? How did they get the bulls in the trailer? That's this thing about, they talk in the Slide 9 about this threat that they can go through metal. Well, that was the bulls. The guy, they were messing with all the stuff on the ranch with this stuff. And so he said, well, I hope they don't mess with my bulls. He had these 4 prize bulls, and he goes running out and they're missing in the corral. And he goes, oh my God, they got my bulls. What am I going to do? And he looks around and he sees this trailer that's locked. He said, I wonder if they put him in the trailer. And he opens up the trailer and these bulls are stacked into this trailer. That's what Defense Intelligence was looking at, is like, how do they do this? Or when they have the Bigelow, when Bigelow says, if you remember the story, these guys, these special forces guys are armed. And Knapp had said, the people that were the most aggressive to the phenomena had the worst experiences. So these guys are walking down there and they get stopped. You remember the story? They get stopped and Ned's voice comes in their head and said, leave, you are not welcome. And it's like, we own this place. We were here first and we own the airspace. We own everything. Get the heck out of here. And these guys go home and the hitchhiker, it follows them home and they have these wine bottles flying around and all their roommates move out and they're just terrorized, these special forces guys. And Bigelow says, when I saw what they did to the government guys, I knew it was time to sell the ranch. And that's the thing. That's slide 9. That's what they're looking at. They're looking at how do you get in someone's head? And that's the part that scares me, this threat thing, because I can tell you an example. One of the things I got in the download experience in 2012 that told me it was consciousness was a line out of a top secret Canadian government document. All these things I had known already, but what it did was put 3 pieces of a puzzle together in my head. And it was like, this is how it works. And it was like, oh yeah, all the pieces fit together. The one line was the famous top secret memo that was written by Wilbert Smith. So Wilbur Smith was the top government guy working on flying saucers from 50 to 54. He goes down to the United States. He's got a very high security clearance because he's running Radio Ottawa. He's basically running and intercepting Russian communications and stuff. He goes down to the United States. He talks to what he calls American officials, and he's told the following things. He puts it in a top secret memo, writes back to the Canadians. He said, we were told by American officials, flying saucers exist. It's the most highly classified subject in the United States. There's a small group headed by Dr. Vannevar Bush who are trying to figure out the modus operandi. It's of tremendous significance to the Americans. And then the key line that came into my head during that download experience. And we were also told by American officials that other things might be associated with the flying saucers, such as mental phenomena. And the Americans aren't doing very well because they said if we're working on it, they're willing to exchange credentials and talk to us. That's exactly what's in slide 9, this idea of getting in someone's head. So what happens in 1950? One of the things, if you see in the memo, it's written to the top guy in the Defense Department was Dr. Oman Salant. He ran the Defense Research Board in Canada, where they did the weapons research. They worked on the atomic bomb with the Americans and the British, radar. They worked on all that stuff. All these 3 allies worked together during World War II. Salant was one of the key guys that was working there. And he was the main guy that was in the UFO thing. So Wilbur Smith was reporting to him. He was reporting to the Defense to the Department of Transport he worked for, but it was the Defense Research Board that gave him the property for the Flying Saucer Observatory and stuff. So Oman Salant was involved. So they talk about this mental phenomena is involved. And the question is, how did the Americans know in 1950? Because Adamski didn't come forward and say aliens were telepathic till 1952. How did they know that there was this telepathy thing, this mental phenomena? What you see is 10 months later, there's a meeting at the Carlton Hotel in Montreal. Oman Salant is there. So is Tizard from the Great Britain. There's 3 people from the CIA and a couple other people from Canada. And that's what they start what you may have heard called MK Ultra. That's where it started. It was the whole idea. They knew consciousness was involved and they wanted to untap consciousness, and they started all these experiments trying to get into consciousness. That's what scares me, because that's part of the report from that we haven't seen from Aesop, from the Skinwalker Ranch thing, is all this stuff. What have they proposed? Have they proposed some sort of idea that we can get into people's heads and all this kind of stuff? That's the kind of stuff that scares me, is the thing that it's more than UFOs. It's this paranormal phenomena. That is the main program that they're working on. The ATIP thing was only, I maintain, a small portion of the whole thing. And Lou Elizondo had nothing to do with that. That was a sub thing that they used to bring into the congressional briefing thing to scare the daylights. You know, if the Russians get this or the Chinese get this, where they can get into your head, they can put the stuff through metal and stuff. That all came from the investigation at Skinwalker Ranch. And we don't have that investigation. We don't have that report either. That's what we need to see, is what did they find out about this paranormal phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch?
What do you make of these emails between Bob Fish, you know, he's an IT contractor with the government, and Podesta that were just released? Have you had a chance to take a look at those emails?
Well, I did maybe 5 or 6 PowerPoints during that time where I went through all the WikiLeaks emails. Yeah, there was some important people talking. I mean, Edgar Mitchell was involved. People don't know that they were setting up a meeting with Podesta with Edgar Mitchell. The WikiLeaks emails is what changed the whole thing. Because what I was told in 2016, and that's why I say this, you got to go back, and even Semivan has said this, you got to go back to that interview you did in 2016 with Tom DeLonge. And you have to realize this thing started with Hillary Clinton. People are going to be really upset. This is Hillary Clinton and Podesta that pulled this whole thing off. They're the ones that got it going. And Obama just green-lighted it. He's got to stay away. You can't touch it. That's what Bill Clinton said. It's the Arkansas tar baby. You cannot touch this story. You get stuck to it and you can't get away from it. So the president will work in the background. He'll just sort of nod and wink and say, okay, go ahead with it, whatever. But the president can never be a player in the whole game. So what you see in the WikiLeaks emails when they dropped is all these things, and especially like this memo that's written by this 3-star general on what to do once disclosure comes, and the whole fact, and that's what I say. The other thing, there's so many things that people are just sort of following the narrative. They're taking us down one little tiny road that they want to lead us. Okay, what happened? I wrote a book called Managing Magic, which was released in February of 2017, where I basically describe exactly what's happening now. I was told in 2016 by 2 different people, there are a number of high-level officials who are going to go public, and they are going to say UFOs exist, and then they are going to force disclosure. And then suddenly Lou Elizondo came forward, and Mellon came forward, and Justice came forward, and Jim Semivan came forward. That's exactly what happened. They were going to put Jim Semivan on 60 Minutes in 2016. This thing was all planned, and what happened was that the whole thing fell apart because John Podesta's emails got leaked. I say right now is Jim's... Semivan has said they were told nonetheless there's over 50 people. So we think, well, T the Stars was shut down. There was all sorts of people in what they called the Cosmic Club that were involved. So what happened to what I call the three kings? There was Robert Weiss from Lockheed Skunk Works who was involved. There was McKay, who was a 2-star, and then he became a 1-star general. He got drunk in Russia, and he got demoted by Obama and lost a star. And then you had McCaslin, a 2-star general. Where did these 3 guys go? They were exposed in the WikiLeaks emails as being involved in this whole thing, and it was like game over. But did they leave, or are they still involved in this disclosure effort? Just because we haven't heard from them before, are they still part of this team? And the whole thing was, it was all planned. And you probably know this, that it was planned that they were going to drop this thing with Hillary Clinton. I was told this, that they were going to drop it. Are they going to drop this thing? Is it going to happen? And then as soon as Hillary lost the election, I immediately phoned the people that were involved. Tom DeLonge said I didn't have people inside his camp. I did have people inside his camp. That's how I knew what was going on. And I went to the people that I knew and I said, hey, so what happened? Hillary lost. Are we still going with the disclosure? Are we still going to drop this thing? And they said, yeah, it's bigger than ever. But they had to redo the thing because these 3 guys, Weiss and McKay and McCaslin, they had to get them out of there. They had to go back into the closet with the clothes. And then they brought in Lou Elizondo and Mellon and all these guys in 2017. But it took them a while to put that thing together. Then To the Stars starts, and this thing starts to unravel. This thing has been planned since 2015, and it was described to me, and I have it in this book, in 2017 in February. I identified Jim Semivan a year before he goes public. I was told all this kind of stuff. It's exactly what's happened. So I'm really not surprised by any of this kind of stuff. Podesta was a key figure. And now, James Fox is talking to him, and Podesta is saying that he's talking to Biden. And that's what you need. You need the approval of the president to put pressure on these different agencies to open this thing up. And even though I play the tape, I've got the tape of Biden in 2007, where he gets confronted when you remember that Obama was asked a UFO question at a thing in Philadelphia in 2007, and that's where Kucinich campaign just totally blew up when suddenly they asked him the question, did you hear a voice in your head at Shirley MacLaine's house and you saw this UFO and whatever, and he tried to defend himself, and that was the end of his presidential run. But at the end of that thing, Biden was running then, and they asked Biden, and he said, like, wow, come on, man, like, where's this thing going? Like, I mean, like, he was just defiant that this was total crazy stuff. But I think Biden will go along with it because Podesta is going to be pushing him, give approval, don't look the other way. And so when he walked off the stage, that didn't surprise me at all. With the Obama thing, he just said, go ask Obama again, is that it's the president can't touch the issue, but in behind the scenes, like Jimmy Carter, you can do a lot of stuff. Jimmy Carter was doing all sorts of stuff. He sent his press secretary to the FBI. People don't know that, to put pressure on the FBI to bring 1,500 documents in an FOIA. He had a lawyer inside the CIA. That woman broke down crying because the CIA guys were hiding documents and stuff. There was an FOIA, and she was to try to get them to get all these documents. The president can do a lot of stuff, but he can't do it openly. He can do it behind the scenes. And so I'm pretty optimistic that there's pressure in behind the scenes. So you have Biden on one side and you have Danny Sheehan on the other side. And I think you're going to see a lot of stuff unravel, but it's not going to happen the way people have. But the worst part is this threat thing and moving us down this one tiny road. Let's ignore the interdimensional thing. Let's ignore the ASOP report. And everybody gets so focused on wanting to be told that ETs exist that they sort of miss all the dots from before, that this is much bigger story. There's much more things that are important to be known about what has happened and what this all means.
Well, back in 2016, right after the Roosevelt stuff is going on off of the East Coast in Florida, Bob Fish has this email exchange with Podesta. Yeah. And he writes this, and I'm quoting, it says, quote, "I had lunch with a senior USAF NCO that worked, he was an ELINT technician, electronic intelligence, who flew RC-135s from MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. The normal target was Cuba, where they did lots of snooping and sometimes challenging the Cubans to turn on their radar and other systems." Then he continues. This is with Podesta. He said there were times when they were diverted from these missions to track UFOs off the east coast of Florida. His claim was the UFOs had a landing and takeoff spot in the ocean east of Miami, north of Bermuda. He also claimed that there were specific electronic signature frequency emanating from them when they were going into or coming out of the water, so they were easy to track. On several occasions, they filmed the UFO as it transitioned from water to air or vice versa, end quote. And this is before the Roosevelt revelations, came to light. This was 2016, back when you were just mentioning 2016 was a pretty key year. And this is an amazing email exchange with Podesta.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of sighting stuff where we're going to find out they've been tracking this stuff. I got a podcast now called Paranormal UFO Consciousness Podcast. I'm doing a whole thing on nukes, and I start looking at all the nuclear things, and we knew now from the first test of the hydrogen bomb, the Ivy thing, that people were told to look for UFOs in the Pacific when they detonated this bomb. The same thing happened. If you remember, the worst radioactive contamination that ever took place was the Castle Bravo test that took place March the 1st, 1954. Well, it was a couple days before that. Eisenhower was at Edwards Air Force Base, only a couple days before. And they were also told to look for UFOs, and both of them, according to Hastings, had UFO sightings around them. So we've sort of known this stuff. But again, you're going to just the thing about, UFOs exist. Okay, get over it. It's like Jacques Vallée said about Nimitz. It's a UFO sighting 15 years ago. It's time to get over it. And so, UFOs exist. But if you get into the thing where you have a congressional hearing and you put Jim Semivan up there and said, you had the beings in your room? Let's go through there. Or Gary Nolan's an experiencer. Or, bring up Hal Puthoff's son, who had a giant triangle fly over him in Phoenix, Arizona. You start getting these kind of stories of experiencers and how many people have had these experiences that are high-level people, and get to the idea beyond the UFOs, what's going on, who are they, and what's the message they're got, and have we had interactions with these intelligence? The Canadians had interactions, or the whole thing of the CIA channel an alien in 1959 at the National Photographic Interpretation Center in Washington, D.C. These kind of stories where we get beyond the fact that UFOs exist, and we get into this whole thing of what does the government really know about what we're dealing with here, and what's the importance and what's the message. So I'm sure they've got piles and piles and piles of material, and because what's his name, they used to do with the satellites, where they had this study of the satellites. They were picking up these satellites, were picking up objects, these above stuff. So they've got all that. That's all going to be classified because it's all systems and methods. They're not going to tell you how they are tracking this kind of stuff. But when you get the report and you get 6 pages out of 400 pages, that's basically 1.5% of the report. I mean, if you're only going to get 1.5% of everything they've got, I mean, it's a total waste of time. I mean, everything's still classified. That's my biggest concern, is that we're not being told anything. We're just saying we're to go rah, 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 go UFO Twitter, put pressure on the government. And it's the old idea that all these guys are going to walk away with suitcases full of money. But unless they do open research, that helps the people. Who cares if the black ops gets more money to build weapons to drop bombs on people? I could care less. That's my big fear, is that it's not being open. If you get 6 pages out of 400 pages that are released, and they basically have, as Danny Sheehan called a nothing burger in them, can we get past that to get past this non-disclosure agreement, secrecy thing, where now we don't even know what they briefed the Congress on. You say, well, yeah, they were briefed. What did they brief them on? What was the thing? Oh, we can't tell you. It's secret. And it's like, it's the same thing. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, he says in these emails, he says, Kit and Dooley have access to reconnaissance satellite data. They can now check for the presence of objects within 10 days of a sighting. The satellites of Vela 10 type have repeatedly caught what experts call fast walkers, erratic sources of energy. These may represent previously unknown electrical phenomena or perhaps UFOs. He says, my clearance is still active, so I could see the images if the need arises. And he goes on to say that these satellites are picking up stuff from behind them, right? They are now tracking stuff entering our star system. And this is very interesting that Bob Fish says in this email exchange that they are tracking stuff interstellar coming to Earth, and they are doing this constantly now. And this is for the UAPTF report to say we know nothing. Well, we know that clearly is not the case, Grant.
But again, it comes down to, do they know it's ET? I mean, do they know that this is interstellar? It's coming from somewhere. Yeah, this is what they'll say. Yeah, it's coming from somewhere. That's where if you get into this Kit Green tape that leaked, then Kit Green says, okay, who are we dealing with? I can't exactly give you the exact lines, but he said, who are we dealing with? And the woman, this intuitive that they've been using, says, there's a fourth dimensional portal off Catalina Island. That's where Nimitz happened. There's a fourth dimensional portal, and there's an interaction, interdimensional, and there's a meeting between U.S. officials and ETs, and Kit Green's going, hang on, let me write that down. It doesn't even faze him. It's like, hang on, let me write that down. I don't know anything about interdimensional facilities or something, he says. And you hear this stuff and you go like, oh my, they're way ahead of where we think they are in terms of, especially with the interdimensional portal stuff, because that's always been the thing that I have, where I got Ron Pandolfi on camera, where he's talking on this cruise ship, where his wife asked him, what do you say, Footman? And he said, people have always wondered what it's like to go into the next world. The next time John, who was his friend sitting beside me, went to university with, next time John goes to the desert, a number of us here are going to go into the next world and come back again. And I got this on tape. He was furious. He had posted it somewhere, and I grabbed it. And you get that kind of stuff. And that's where I say, when you start looking at it, I think, to me, the way I've looked at it, every time I run up against something that is anti-gravity stuff, it always ends up in a dead heap, or there's nothing to it. But every time you go after the portal thing, there seems to be something to it. I even had an encounter with Tyler D. from the American Cosmic. Right. I met with him, and he showed me these photographs. I don't know if you told the story. He shows me these photographs, and he says, well, look at this. And there's these two guys flying through space in these pajamas. And he says, what do you think of this painting? And I go, I don't know. It doesn't mean anything to me. And he shows me another one. He's showing me all these paintings. And he says, I said, it doesn't mean anything to me. He said, you know where it is? I said, no, where is it? He said, Hughes Aircraft Building in L.A. And I go, still doesn't mean anything to me. And he goes, that's what the jump room was. And I go, really? Let me see that photograph. And he shows me these photographs again, these two guys flying through space. And he says, you know where the one where they're flying through space? He says, you know where that is? And then I says, no. He says, right outside the elevator. And then later on, I'm thinking to myself, why did he show me these photographs? Why would he didn't say it was real. He didn't say it wasn't real. But he showed me these photographs, and I'm thinking, why would Tyler D. go to the Hughes Aircraft Building and take these photographs unless he had got some indication that this story may have been true? And those kind of portal things where I'm going, wow, maybe there's something to it. I would never have believed it. I thought it was a total joke story. And then he shows me these photographs, and this is the top NASA guy. This is the guy in the Cosmic Club, the Invisible College. He's the key guy that's getting these downloads, 40 patents and stuff. He's the amazingly powerful guy inside the Black World UFO program. And he's showing me these photographs of this jump room thing. And I'm going, wow. I mean, just weird. I think it's way beyond what it's 1,000 times more complex than people think. People want just the president to stand up and say, ETs are coming in, they got lost and they come in here. That's not going to happen because that's not what's happening.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, the one and only Grant Cameron. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and I'm going to say, I'm trying to keep up with Grant. And more with Grant after this short break. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network. and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Grant Cameron is with us. Tomorrow night, Debbie Cobble. Thursday night, Ross Coulthard, live from Australia. Tonight, it's all about Grant. And Grant, I think this is the question that is on everybody's mind. The world didn't freak out. The world didn't. They were given the chance to freak out. We had heavy coverage in mass media. We've got all the reports coming in from science and the search for extraterrestrial life and fast radio bursts and exoplanets. We've got aliens all over the place right now, and the Senate Intelligence Committee, the UAPTF report. But the world didn't freak out. Why do you think it didn't freak out, and are we ready for disclosure?
Well, it didn't, because if you look back at the Brookings report, and they said if you understand that there may be ETs, you got to acclimatize the people, and that's what I say. I mean, the first thing was 1956, where Disney was forced to do a documentary. Well, he didn't force, but they asked him to do a documentary on UFOs. He produced it. It really didn't go anywhere. They offered him film. Bob Emenegger was offered film. They've been doing these gradual drops all the time. But now, as I said, they're doing it on steroids. I mean, I think you were talking last night about this film. Well, I heard about this 34-minute film. Or I heard about it before they made the report. No, minutes after they made the report, I heard about it. And what you've got now is this real heavy leaking, where the stuff is, they can't control it, and you wonder who's doing the leaking. And I always maintain there's people in there, like the original leaked videos. If you look at the photographs that were released on Mellon's site that supposedly, got out there, he left them on the whatever, that he didn't have it, the password or whatever, and these things came out. If you take a look at those videos, they have the date of September the 8th, I believe. Tom DeLonge did not have his news conference until October the 11th, and the New York Times article didn't drop till December 16th. They had those videos out because they have the packaging slip, which has Lou Elizondo's name on there and Mellon's name and this Essex woman that was involved. And so they had the videos out before Lou Elizondo actually retired. So this is this idea that I always say, like, how did they get the videos out? This is, to me, is always the most interesting part, is you have these leaks that are coming out and people are leaking stuff. And I think people on the inside have figured out how to do this. And that's the problem that they have that is going to speed this thing up, that we have way more leaking than we've had. We have all these videos, and then you have the denial. So a leak, and then it's like, well, we can't talk about that, and a little hint about this or whatever. And to me, it all just looks so sort of staged, that there's these people on the back that have been pushing this stuff out forever. Bill Moore had that thing where he released the Roswell book, and within a couple of days, he gets a phone call, we think from Richard Doty at Kirkland. He gets a phone call from a guy by the name of Roland B. Evans at Offutt Air Force Base, and they make this deal where we're from the government, we're here to help you. And I think all these people have been leaked, that they've been leaking this stuff incessantly, but always with plausible deniability. So you leak documents, you leak the MJ-12 document, MJ-12's for real, you leak the document, you make some alterations in the document, you got plausible deniability, the document is a hoax, you put it out, and that's what you're doing, is this plausible deniability thing where you're sticking stuff out that nobody can really confirm where it comes from, how did it get out, who had it, and that sort of stuff. And it just keeps moving up the acclimatization of people, where they realize this is real, that's real, that there's bigger videos. Even when they first came out, there was a story they had 200 videos. I remember that. And it was like when they released the first couple. There's all these rumors that they have all this material. And what you see now is this real heavy leaking where somebody's telling the story indirectly through these leaks. And I think it's very promising. But in terms of the real story, I think it's way beyond just confirming that ETs are real or the disclosure. Because in the end, I mean, we've had disclosure already, and according to what I have, is that we've been told, yes, it's for real, and we don't know what it is. That's what President Johnson, I read the entire 8-page report that they had given, the final result to President Johnson. That's what they said. Yeah, this is absolutely for real. And this was like Art Lundahl, who was the head CIA guy, the head of Lockheed Skunk Works, the head of NRO was on that committee. A 3-star general, and that's what they concluded. Yeah, this is for real, but we really don't know what it is, because how do you really know where it's coming from? And you get into this idea about are the intelligences, are they playing a part? There was this thing I asked Jacques Vallée when I had the meeting with him. I said, Jacques, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, because he was talking about the 45 crash. I mean, they come across the galaxy and then they crash, and then they're dropping metal, like the thing flies across the galaxy and suddenly pieces are falling off the craft. I said, Jacques, this doesn't make any sense. This makes it look like ports, like what happened in the lab at SRI during the days of the studying Uri Geller, where all this metal stuff was falling inside the lab. And I said, it looks like they're dropping this stuff, and it's a gifting thing. And that's what Tyler D had said. The same guy that showed me the photographs, the guy in American Cosmic, he called it, and I asked Ryan Bledsoe, I said, did you actually hear Tyler use the word gifting field? And he said, yeah, I used it. And that was the thing. He'd taken these people to this field where they were getting this metal in New Mexico, and he called it the gifting field, as if they're dropping it. And then you hear the interview with George Knapp, where he's interviewing Bigelow, and he says to Bigelow, oh, well, what about the Roswell? He says, yeah, Roswell's real. Yeah, but there's a crash in China, and there was a crash in Russia, and there's a crash in South America, and I think they're seeding it. So that's why I said to Jacques Vallée, I said, hey, this looks like gifting, like they're actually dropping this stuff on purpose. They're doing the disclosure as well. And then Jacques says, well, I think I came up with that idea. And I go, oh, you did? I didn't know that. And that was this idea that there's a lot less random going on, that the intelligence is doing this disclosure as well. They're doing all this bizarre stuff. Even the thing where they drop from 80,000 feet down to sea level. Like, what is that, a pre-abduction maneuver? No, it's to go, watch this, and then you drop it down, or come really close to on the East Coast. They go within inches of the plane, and that's like, hey, watch how close we can get. Or when they fly over the water, this thing, the female pilot says it looks like, an insect inside a glass jar. It's bouncing around. I saw that the second night, the second sighting I saw in 1975 was like, it was jumping around the sky. It was like unbelievable. It was like a bee inside a bottle, just bouncing around from side to side. And I say, like, well, why do they need to do that? Like, well, why is this UFO zipping around making these bizarre maneuvers? And why did they make the bubbles? It's almost like they said, oh, here they come. You knew that Nimitz, they were there for a week. They were trying to get the attention. It's like, hey, Zogar, turn the lights on. They can't see us. I mean, hey, come on, we're over here. Like, take a look. And then finally they send the F-18s out to go and chase them. And then they say, Zogar, go under the water, make big giant bubbles. Here they come. And then they fly over and it's like, oh my God, look, there's bubbles under the water. And it's to me, it's just like a show. They're doing, as I call it, the theory of wow. They want to get your attention. They're doing disclosure as well. They're putting it out there so that more and more people see, and more people are demanding answers because they've had the experience. And I think we've missed the point that the intelligence is disclosing as well.
What did you make of the series of leaked videos going back to April? Was there anything in there that felt ET to you, or was this just conventional aircraft?
Oh no, these are real videos, but it's the plausible deniability thing. That's where I say, like, these videos were out 4 weeks before Elizondo resigned. This was all planned, and they showed these videos, but it was the whole thing. It gets into this. Well, what I think where they run the disinformation. I mean, Jim Semivan had supposedly made the statement: if we wanted you dead, you would have been dead 10 years ago.
No, Grant, I'm referring to the videos that were released or leaked this year, like the flying pyramids, the flying toasters video. What did you make of those?
Well, I mean, we're doing a book. Nicole and I are doing a book on pyramids. We have that, and that's one of the things you see is the whole thing with the the intelligence, they're just changing the structure. They're changing the types of craft. Triangles are now, before it was, saucers and it was, wooden ships in the 1890s. They keep changing. They're doing this thing where they're appearing as different things. They're just trying to get people's attention. They're allowing people to take photographs. And I think all these photographs are legitimate. And it's all a matter of why would the intelligence need to show itself? I mean, it can cloak itself. If they're doing abductions, they don't have to be seen. So if they're being seen, they want to be seen, and that's what they're doing. They're doing this gradual disclosure thing. I think all those videos are real. I think they're getting them, but it's always the plausible deniability. You try to track that thing down as to who took it, and it falls. That's where Jim Semivan had said this thing, and that's where I think the way they control the story is not to kill people. It's you throw mud in the water. If you've got a good story, you put another story in that counters the first story and makes people question it, and everybody doesn't know whether it's real or not, but everybody's thinking about it. It's an anomaly, and everybody's talking about it, and that's all they want to do. The more we talk about it, the more the consciousness rises, the more people become acclimatized, and then what happens in 2017 when they drop the New York Times story, everybody goes, yeah, okay, I knew that already. I'm just like, people are they've heard it so many times, and when you see more and more videos, and they keep doing it, no matter what the skeptics say, people are seeing those videos, and people are going, oh, it's probably, real, and there's another video, they're getting us ready for a higher disclosure. And so I absolutely believe those things are real. That's what the skeptic. I say a skeptic is just somebody who's a left-brain interpreter. They're trying to fill the hole. And once they fill the hole, they're not going to back off it. They have their ego on the line, and they're going to stand their ground or whatever. We have to quit listening to these people. Who cares what these people think? It's like, that's your belief system. I mean, as I said, get a suit, go to church. Who cares what you believe? I mean, this is a move that's taking place. And there's more and more videos coming out all the time, and more extreme videos. I believe they're all real. As to whether they show ET, I think they're showing an intelligence behind the phenomena. And I keep calling it UFO. I didn't fall into the thing of calling it UAPs, because that came, I think, from Great Britain. And you even saw Hillary Clinton in May of 2016. She said, the new name is it's no longer called UFO. It's called UAPs. There's new nomenclature. So already in 2016, this is all being set up. This is all orchestrated. This is all planned. You're going to see more of this stuff. I'm not sure who's leaking it, but you have. I would guess at this point that there are people inside the government who know how to get this stuff out. They want the story out, and they're forcing it out. And you have the Defense Department writing these reports, trying to bail out the ship and trying to keep the thing going, saying as little as they can. There was even this story that they said to the press guys, quit talking. Because every time someone says something, they say something that contradicts what everybody else says, and it leads to another 2000 Freedom of Information Act request. Everybody just shut up, don't say anything, and don't talk about it. And I think the Defense Department is scrambling, trying to figure out how to put the genie back in the bottle. And you can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's over, especially with Danny Sheehan on the inside, forcing this issue, and now a fourth complaint coming in with lawyers and talking about metals and stuff like that. This thing is just skyrocketing. That's what I said when I saw the TTSA or the ATIP report. I said this is just them lighting the fuse on the bomb. It's not going to go off on June the 25th, but it is going to set this thing, and it's going to start to go viral. And that's what's going to happen, because what's happened now, I said the disclosure will come. The story will unravel when the major media realizes they've been had. And the major media, Washington Post, New York Times, Politico, all these people, Fox News, they've all realized they've been had. And they, as Ralph Blumenthal pointed out, he can't even do a story because the main reporters, the biggest reporters, are now all working on this story because everybody knows this is Pulitzer Prize stuff. Everybody's digging and scratching to the bottom, and you're not going to be able to fight off all the FOIAs, Danny Sheehan, all the major media. Everybody's leaking. It's all falling apart, and it's just a matter of time until it all collapses.
Yesterday on the War Zone, Brett Tingley released this article, and I'm just going to read you the headline, and it is this: the Navy's exotic M80 Stiletto test ship defeated drone swarms at sea during trials. And very curious, right? Drone swarms right there. There's a photograph of the ship. It's gorgeous. It's a very space-aged looking stealth craft. It's pretty big. But went out with sea trials using the drone shield system. and defeated swarms of drones. And now, talking about, confusing issues, right? We have the 2019 swarming of the U.S. Navy off of the Pacific coast. And then we've got this, the M80 Stiletto, and it's photographed here in Guantanamo Bay with this counter trafficking anti-drone swarm system installed. When everything else is coming out, about these swarms of UFOs and UAPs, and then this story comes out, and it just makes you wonder. You want to scratch your head and go back and think, what is it that we're really dealing with here? Is it drones? The video that was released of the flying pyramids, flying toasters. And in that leaked video, there was flashing aircraft lights on them, number one. Yeah. But number two, there wasn't any erratic behavior, and these things are operating at, 40 knots, 50 knots, 60 knots. Nothing exotic as far as, in ET technology would go. But then you see a report like this coming out, and this testing is ongoing with the United States Navy. Could this be... or is this being put out to confuse the issue? What do you think, Grant?
Well, it could be. That's what I say. That's what I would say counterintelligence is going to do, is they're not going to kill anybody, or they're just going to throw mud in the water. So if you're talking multiple objects that are swarming a ship, then you put out a story that we are able to take on drones, a program that they actually have that make people wonder, well, I wonder if that's what it is. But you're never going to know, because we have no providence on any of this stuff. It's being leaked. So both sides are leaking. The people who are trying to cover up are leaking to throw mud in the water, so you don't really know what's going on. We actually have a triangle sighting. We have this whole thing. We hope China doesn't get it, or Russia. And I'm actually doing interviews now with Chinese people, UFO researchers inside China. And you talk to them, and the one's got her little cat, and the little cat is like, and you're going like, these are evil people? They're just the people like us. And they had a triangle sighting there in Shanghai, which we're going to be talking about this weekend with one of the researchers there. They have the triangles too. So is that, an American technology, or are the intelligence putting out? It's pretty hard to tell. But it doesn't really matter in terms of disclosure, because you and I are going to have this discussion. I mean, is this our technology or their technology? But once it gets out into the media, everybody's going to go, oh, there's another one. Oh, wow. They're not going to associate it with government technology. They're just going to go another video, and the consciousness rises another step. I think it works against whoever's putting, if they're trying to do disinformation. The more we talk about this, it's almost like African American, or like I always say, social political movements. We're no different than any other social political movement, whether it was African American rights or gay rights or whatever. The more you talk about it, the more it goes up. You can do all the bad jokes about African Americans in the 1960s in movies or whatever. The more you talk about it, as long as you spell your name right, it just raises the consciousness. And in the end, everybody's going to know what the right answer is. Everybody's going to make the assumption that this is the way it is, this is the way it works. But we have to talk about it. And so it really doesn't matter the details, whether it's same as we talked about, I think, before with Paul Hellyer. Paul Hellyer only had two major experiences. He talked to the general, and he had this guy from the head of emergency management who told him he'd been briefed and taken to Area 51 and all this kind of stuff. But other than that, Paul Hellyer had nothing. He didn't know anything. I had meetings with him. He confirmed, no, he didn't know anything. He wasn't interested in the subject. But he's telling all these stories. He's just repeating what everybody else does. And even though a lot of the stuff he's repeating is not true, it's just garbage, it still works because he's a former defense minister in Canada. And everybody goes, oh, Paul Hellyer, like what he's telling these stories. And it raises consciousness. It makes people more open to the subject, that this thing's for real. And the more people know it's for real, the less they believe what the government's going to put out. So this does help disclosure. Even if it's phony documents or phony videos, it is going to help the thing, because it's another drop in the ocean, and eventually it's all going to flood the place, and it's going to be over. I think it's just going to accelerate. That's why I said the initial UAP report is only the start. That just starts the fuse on the bomb. This is going to blow. There's no way I don't think they can stop it, especially with Danny Sheehan in there inside the wall. There's no way they can stop this now.
Now, one last quick question, and fantastic conversation tonight, Grant. Thank you. Are you surprised about the lack of the United States Air Force in any of these conversations? That it's all centered around the United States Navy?
Well, yes and no. When I was working on the Canadian stuff, we're just bringing out a book on the Canadian study in the 1950s. But when I asked the Canadians, because as I said, they had the top secret memo, and I went to them and I said, who is Wilbur talking to in the United States? And they said the Navy. And this is the whole thing people don't realize, that when the UFO thing started in 1947, when the Roswell thing happened, there was no Air Force. It was Army Air Force, and all the research money, and this is what this is about. This whole thing is about research money, about who controls the budgets inside the Pentagon for research. And when the whole thing started, the Air Force was not there. So the big money, the big research money, was held by the Navy. And if you see Bob Lazar said it was Navy, you see this over and over again. Bob Exler said it was Navy. You had all these different things. And it may have been the Navy all along that was running the whole show. And it was a misdirection that everybody's chasing the Air Force, and it was actually the Navy. But it made sense that the Navy had the research funds in 1946, 47. And when the Air Force came along and they said, this is our situation, and they said, get lost. We got the money. You're not taking our money. Get lost. Go start your own thing. And so they broke off. And you even see the Navy has its own Air Force type thing, fighter jets and stuff like that. You have these inner fights between the different services, and they're not going to give up their stuff. So the Navy was original. It was the Navy that was running, I think, the UFO thing before the Air Force came on board. And so I'm not really surprised that the Air Force has not been brought in, and it may have been part of the plan that the Navy has this stuff. Let's get the Navy. Looked at the Navy's upset. The Navy's going to release this stuff. They're interacting with these ships. This would be a good way to put the story out. We need the story. We're going to use this. We can use the threat thing and all this kind of stuff. And the Navy was ready to play the game, or people inside. You never know. The people that are running it may have been Navy people. Ron Pandolfi had claimed that every Navy flag officer has been briefed. There was all sorts of people talking about the fact that the Navy was running the show.
There was another interesting comment. I've only got about a minute left, Grant. That Lou said yesterday. I asked him if this was gun camera footage, in this 23-minute UFO UAP video, and which he's classifying as UFO, by the way, Lou, directly. I'm sure you heard that. And he said, I need to go back and listen to exactly how he put it, but he said it was an electronic observation station.
Systems, yeah. Yeah, well, that would be the thing on everything, on planes, on boats, on, everything would have all sorts of sensors, radar and visual and infrared and all these sensors. That's why they're talking about this highly classified stuff, that it's not just the video. You have all this other data that backs up the video, that they probably have, 10 different sensors that are, if something comes on, they've got 10 different measurements of this object. So that's where I'm thinking he's talking sensors, that one of these sensors has picked this up, so they have video and all these other radar and all this sort of stuff. So they know it's not just simply an anomaly on a piece of photograph. They've got all these other sensors. So that's why I think he was using the thing with sensors, which makes sense that stuff is classified, that you're going to give away. How do we detect if the Russians try to attack us? What kind of sensors do we have that'll pick them up coming in on the attack? And we're not going to give that stuff out. Now,
really quick, you're doing a lot of live streaming now. Do you do it on a specific day of the week, and where can everybody go and check it out?
White House UFO is my YouTube channel. We usually play off of the big story. So when they did the 60 Minutes, we had the 60 Minutes post-game show. And then when they did the UAP report, I said they weren't going to talk about experiencers. So we're going to do the UAP report, but from the experiencers, from the UFO side. I do a daily podcast, a paranormal UFO consciousness podcast. And I'm into nuclear weapons now. I'm doing a bunch of series on nuclear weapons and the connection to UFOs. And I interview a lot of experiencers. So I'm on there basically every day, paranormal UFO consciousness. I don't really run the website anymore. I've shut the website down. I'm not really too interested in presidents anymore. But I do the podcast is the main thing. And Facebook, my main site is Presidential UFO, my Facebook site, if you want to see stuff I'm posting every day.
And a big shout out to Nicole. I got to hang out with her for 6 or 7 days a couple of weeks ago, and she's absolutely amazing, and I know she's listening now. What's up, Nicole? Thank you so much, Grant. You are absolutely amazing. I look forward to seeing you in about 6 weeks. We're going to make that happen. And then right after that, of course, Starworks. And I have been told I'm going to introduce you at Starworks. So there you go. Thank you.
So you're in contact with all the big boys. So you heard all my questions that I want this answered, that answers. So you get the answers from me. You got your job to do now.
Yeah, and I will be right back at you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Grant. Have a great night.
Okay. Good night.
Grant Cameron. Wow, that was amazing. So we just squeezed in 3 shows into one for all of you out there. Grant Cameron, you're absolutely amazing. The links for Grant are over at jimmychurchradio.com. With that, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back to your phone calls. 747-228-2051. I'll be right back.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Grant Cameron. Amazing conversation. He's the best. He's the best. Absolutely fantastic show. I've opened up the phones. 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. So much to take away with Grant. It's one of those shows you've got to listen to it again and go back and pick up these little nuggets that he lays out there. And one of the things that sticks out for me is his references going back to 2016. And we have to remember that 2016 predates everything. I did do the interview with Tom DeLonge in 2016. The announcements with To the Stars Academy, and then, of course, everything that happened in December of 2017. TTSA was announced in October of 2017, and how everything started to explode. And he's right. And if you go back and you think about everything that was going on, and then, of course, there was, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the air. I don't know, but I'll certainly do it now. In the WikiLeaks Podesta emails that were released in that dump, and part of that was Podesta and Tom DeLonge. And I was, Tom and I were, so I guess I've got to think about this now. It was 5 years ago, the timing of everything. So go with me on this. Had Tom on the show, and Tom and I are exchanging emails, and we're talking and phones and things like that. But anyway, the Podesta leak comes out, and I remember looking right at the email. I'm like, that's Tom's email. And I go, and I write Tom right then, and Tom's email was no good. I was like, wow. And I had just written Tom like a couple of days ago, or he had written me, and that email was stopped. And I pick up the phone. I go, dude, yeah, man, I got a new email. Here it is. And he sends it to me. But I was like, holy crap. He goes, dude, my email was absolutely jammed up and flooded. And I can't believe that this happened with WikiLeaks. And I'm embarrassed by it. But there were all of those disclosures. But that happened. That actually happened. And so earlier this week, when somebody had brought up the Tom DeLonge show, and it has now, what is really strange is I've had a bunch of emails about it. I've been watching social media. Now Grant brings it up, and it was brought up a couple of times this week. This interview that I had done with Tom. I don't know how many interviews Tom did. I think he might have done one with Knapp on Coast to Coast. He did the show with me, and then after that, he did the show on Joe Rogan. I'm not so sure if Tom did a whole lot of interviews out there, and I might have been one of like maybe 3 or 4. But it is part of the historical record. This interview I did back in 2016. Anyway, the Podesta emails. And so they have now surfaced again. And the Podesta emails, now that people are taking a closer look, is this email exchange, that went down with Bob Fish. And going back to 2016 and the stuff that Bob Fish is referencing in these emails with Podesta, and we think about the Roosevelt and what is going off of the coast of Florida. Now, there's another part of this, and I encourage everybody to go out there and take a look at these Podesta Bob Fish emails. This reference to a very specific place in the Pacific Ocean off of the east coast of Miami, north of Bermuda, where the United States Navy was tracking these UFOs going in and out of the water, a very specific point. And because of the frequency that the United States Navy had picked up on of these craft, this electromagnetic frequency, they knew where they were and they could triangulate it, and they knew specifically where they were coming and going in and out of the ocean. All of that is very, very interesting. And then, of course, you have the Roosevelt and everything else that we know, and including the Nimitz stuff and Catalina Island, which, again, goes back to 2004. But this stuff is referenced in these emails. It's very, very interesting. And, again, it's going back to 2016 and the timing of all of this and what we know today. I'm very, very, very intrigued. I don't know. Bob Fish says that he is an IT contractor, but Bob Fish also references these conversations that he had with these Navy NCOs and Air Force and ELINT, electronic intelligence. Very, very, very interesting. And coming on the heels of all of this, I want everybody to go to the war zone. I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to post this up in Twitter right now. This is the article. And I'm putting calls on hold as I'm doing this too as well. So just stay right there. Here is the war zone article about swarming drones and testing with the Navy's M80. Okay, now this is it. I want everybody to go with everything that is being talked about today about swarming UAPs, and then we have an article like this coming out. It's interesting. I find the timing of it very interesting, of course, but it's the subject matter. And if we go back to these leaked videos that have been coming out April and May and stuff that clearly show terrestrial aircraft, right? That's what I see. I don't see anything funky. I see flashing aircraft lights. But could this be exactly what is in this article in the war zone? Just go and read it for yourself. Let's get to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Yo, this is Philip. I'm originally from Kentucky, but I live in Louisiana. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Philip. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, let's be honest, man. I kind of have something to disclose based on like what a dream I had, and I want to see if you can have like what's your insights on it.
Okay, I'll take a crack at it.
Okay, and you're familiar with David Wilcock, right?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, I informed him on this dream that I had, and he basically said that, it was like spot on or like nailed on. But basically, I had like this dream where, and I'm telling you, man, like it literally felt like an actual, like it felt real, like it was reality. And I woke up, started to, do my daily routines, brush my teeth, and get ready for what is known as a...
Oh, my phone lines just dropped. Isn't that interesting? Just right in a row. Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody. Screen just went blank. I'm going to start pulling some other stuff in. And let's see who this is. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? You're live. My phone system is down. Oh, man. My phone system just crashed. Phone system just crashed. I will try to restart it. Great. Everybody that was just on hold, blip, 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 all disappeared at the same time. And I will try to... okay, it is slowly restarting. Philip, are you there? Hello, you're live.
This is Rhea.
Oh, hi, Rhea.
I had to run into another room. Hey. Yes, the Sophia Logos Principle. My guides got me to grab the phone.
Okay, what's on your mind?
Well, I have my mind on the 1895 to 1896 thing. And Emma Curtis Hopkins would have been alive at that time, and she was like a metaphysical, spiritual guru to all these people that became like the modern day New Age. And she taught it before it got perturbed by people trying to muddle up the stories.
Okay.
And so I've come on your show a few times, and this is the first time that I'm being allowed to channel. And I keep trying to tell people that I speak to aliens, and I'm not joking at all. And so if I could be allowed to maybe to talk with certain people, to be like a go-between, and we've got a lot to share.
Okay, I'm trying to follow you, Rhea. Are you saying that you're channeling right now?
Yes. This whole evening, my guides have been preparing me that I was going to call you guys and that they were just going to do whatever came through. And so I'm doing everything I can to ground. And
okay, what are they trying to say?
You live in a place that is multidimensional, and it's like a Russian doll, where the gods would be the big doll on the outside, and we dive using sound to make light, and these lovely waves to dance into musical realms made mathematically. And the tyranny of what we are experiencing now is because we live in a base 9 realm, but base 10 math is sumeriously running away with a lot of what would be called the code for the software of the units running around that can be equated to the artificial intelligence of God.
And what does that mean? I'm trying to follow. I mean, I understand the words, but what does that mean?
Means that we really all are co-creating this experience together, and that death is really a simple horizon into the next good place that you've planned. And there's not anything to worry about, but for that which we decide to follow our heart about. And there's a lot of stuff we've got to clean up about the planet and how we treat each other, and most especially, we really need to save the children that are stuck in these really, really difficult situations, and we've got to put children first on this planet in a very profound way.
And if we do these things that we should do, then what is next?
Very recently, the one that we call Jesus, basically the Lord of the planet, he comes around every 2,200 years, which to him it's every 22 seconds. So he feels like he's here a lot, but he's a grand being, and for him to come here is a bit of a he's being really nice to come and check on us because we're little young baby souls that are sort of brewing in a place where we can make mistakes and go asunder, and we don't, try to judge or ridicule for that. But as you can see, that's all gone wrong, and it's simply that we have a visual weaponry that is used against us, and it is this weird thing called base 10 math, and it tells us how to place a tent around a 9 and how to do what they decided in the Taurian age would be to manipulate the hue. And we're in a deeply manipulated state, and we're basically in a kind of a DNA war which can be likened to the mitochondrial of the body, because the least among us inherit always.
Okay, and that's great and that's amazing. But if we do these things, what is next? If we take care of, if we love and we take care of the children and we achieve world peace and we conquer hunger and we do all of and we take care of the planet.
That's going to take quite a while. That's kind of like, what kind of a future vision, and Tesla laid out some really lovely things, that can happen. Of course, free energy, which already exists. What people don't realize is that the Earth has a natural defense system, and it's now back online, and I've been channeling that and sharing that information, but now this is Delphi, and I choose to come out. The mother's ready to say, hello, chickadees. I'm here to help.
And what is the defense system for?
It's called the Sweet Waters, and it's an electromagnetic field that is like what we would think of fluid dynamics and atmosphere. It's made of electricity, and it's what you would call an intuition system. If there's some internal response that something's on the horizon that needs protection, then the Earth gathers its electromagnetic poles and puts up a field.
Where are you? Where are they channeling from? Do you have any idea?
One moment. The group mainly want to know, first of all, there's a planet called X. It's not X, there were 9. And the truth is it was Vulcan, and you're going to like this story real fine. Because when you look around and you listen to what this Sibylline chickadee's been spitting for 3 years gone now. Oh, because my head, I got to splitting. Was a sad story, but I'm here to say, it's time to save the USA. All angels activate. Boy, but I'm annoying. You can consider this first contact. It's also announcing 90 days from now, peace in Korea. Peace in Korea 90 days from now or less. In Atlanta, they're trying to turn it into a Hollywood, and there's a satanic sacrifice stack underneath the domino-shaped house. Listen to me, I'm Delphi, hear me roar. I've been tipping and toeing around the outside of the bend, but I'm the mama that comes around the mountain. I was prophesied by Delphi, and by God, I got this woman to bend her knee. Hallelujah. Here it comes, everybody. Oh, that's what?
Wow.
Signing off. Oh, no, I'm available to help governments, right? Project Avatar. I'm alive, Johnny 5. It's me. I love you guys. I love you too. Mama. Peace is the word. Just calming down after all of that. Look it. Okay, that's it. That's what happened.
So what's it like to hang out with you?
People who aren't happy would be just terribly miserable around me, because my guides abhor anything that would not behove my well-being. So, but it's exploration. It's
when did this start for you?
My first experience that I remember through original memory, without doing later NLP work. I was 4 years old, and I was on Mount Vesuvius,
You were on Mount Vesuvius. Oh, you mean like an astral projection?
No, my family moved to Italy for a year.
Oh, okay.
From age 4 to 5, and it was an awakening process for me, and I became like an impersonator. I was able to mimic people when I came home from that trip, and it got turned on for me on the top of the mountain. I smelled the fumes that my brother and sister were smelling, and they're going, "Oh, you know, that stinks." And so I kind of stuck my head in there to get a good smell, and it made me woozy. And then my arm started to be remote controlled, and I heard a male voice come out of my mouth, and it said, you know, like, "Oh, we're moving around, we're in," and flopping my arm around, and my sister's looking at me like, "What the happening to my sister?"
Right.
And I'm freaking out because when she gives me the look, she's like, "You need to chill, look." And so I try to fight it, and I grab this brick, this rock that happened to be there, and the friggin' thing like wrapped up in my shirt. I'm trying to like make it stop, and so it didn't last forever for me. The whole thing was probably maybe a 2-minute experience. And I remember I used to tell kids about that, and I forgot about it because, you know, they'd be like, "Oh, you're weird," you know, scare people.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I mean, I'm going to go back and listen to this phone call and see what I can pick up out of it. But Rhea, thank you. We're right at the end of the show, so I've got to run. But
all right. Fade to black.
Fade to black.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Rhea. We'll see you tomorrow night. Great phone call. Thank you so much. Blessings right back at you. And with that, I've got to get out of here and roll some credits. Rhea, that was absolutely amazing, and I know that everybody was listening right along with me. That was a lot of fun. That was very cool. Tomorrow night, I want to remind everybody what is happening tomorrow. Right here, Debbie Cobble is with us. Now, this is a very big deal tomorrow night because Debbie is the subject of Bud Hopkins' book, Intruders. There's another twist to this show tomorrow night with Debbie, and I'm just going to let all of you know now before she is on the show tomorrow night. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Debbie and I went to the same high school. That's right, Warren Central High School. And she graduated before me, just before me, but we went to the same high school. We grew up in the same neighborhood, and it's a very small community there on the east side of Indianapolis. And her and I last week going through all of this, our favorite Dairy Queen and record stores and the neighborhood and the school and the churches and people and things, and it was unbelievable for me to go through that with Debbie. And she's going to be calling in tomorrow night from Indianapolis. Well, she lives outside of Indianapolis now. But wow, it was very interesting for me and Debbie to go through this because neither of us knew. We didn't, and we made this connection, and we didn't stop talking about Indianapolis for nearly a week, and she's going to be joining us tomorrow night right here on Fade to Black. So get ready for all of that. And then, of course, Thursday night, no Fader night this week. Thursday night, Ross Coulthard live from Australia. So there you go. Great show tonight. I want to thank Grant Cameron. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamurian. Show was produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. It's broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll see everybody tomorrow night with Debbie Cobble. Until then, everybody be safe. It's time to fade to black.